Ninja Gaiden 4 is a 2025 action game co-developed by Team Ninja and Platinum Games, published by Koei Tecmo. To say this series hasn't had an effect on this channel would be an understatement, and I never would have imagined when doing my first retrospective a few years back, the Ninja Gaiden franchise would spontaneously revive itself with 3 whole new games in the Big 25. First, we got a re-release of the classic, the world's best action game, Ninja Gaiden 2 Black. Then a spin-off title a few months ago, Ninja Gaiden Ragebound. But only now have we collectively been graced with what was once thought to be impossible. Usually I have a long, drawn-out diatribe at the start of these explaining the development cycle, who made the game, why it is the way it is, but this time around, I think it's better if I let the game speak for itself. This is the first mainline Ninja Gaiden game to be released in 12 long years, and I finally get to talk about it. This series has had its ups and downs, from Ninja Gaiden 3's initial release being a dumpster fire, to Razor's Edge just barely making up for its initial failure, to Yaiba dragging this franchise into the lowest depths of video game mediocrity purgatory, to now. In spite of all of these past fuck-ups, they somehow got a 4th game. Team Ninja partnered up with Platinum and brought this series back, and I am happy to say they actually had some chefs in the fucking kitchen this time, because Ninja Gaiden 4 knocked me upside the noggin with how good it is. I'm typing this from a hospital bed with a concussion, by the way. Despite all odds, and despite not being perfect, I honestly really do think they made some shit happen with this game, and I'm gonna spend the next several hours telling you why. If all you wanted from this video was to hear whether or not this game is worth buying, yeah, go and get it. It's a good game. But for returning viewers, brainers, I already know this answer does not suffice. So we'll be spending the next several hours deboning this pig we call Ninja Gaiden 4. This shit made a solid impression on me, and I feel like despite falling short in a couple of places, it manages to do a lot of things right as a longtime fan of not just Ninja Gaiden, but action games in general. So no long intro for this video either. We've got way too much game to talk about for that. As always, massive spoiler warning beyond this point, if anyone cares at all. If you want to save the hype moments and aura for your own playthrough, you have been warned. Without any further delays, let's see how the successor to the world's best action game shapes up to its legacy. Ninja Gaiden 4 is already off to a good start with the title screen alone. We're opening the game with mysterious backshots of our new protagonist. As is tradition with these long-form Ninja Gaiden videos, we'll be playing on hard. Master Ninja isn't anything too crazy this time around, but considering I recorded my entire first playthrough on hard already, I want to keep the difficulty consistent. I also switched the Japanese audio my first run too out of curiosity.
No. Don't you want to hear who's voicing Ryu this time?
No, nigga.
So, first things first. Like any good Ninja Gaiden game, 4 wastes no time throwing the player headfirst into the action. Sort of. We don't even get any kind of intro cutscene or anything this time around. The first thing we get is our protagonist Yakumo, surrounded by 3 dudes. This here is Ninja Gaiden 4's tutorial section and is maybe the most exhaustive out of the whole series so far. This game inundates the player with so much information, you'd think there'd be a multiple choice SAT type exam at the end of this level. Like, holy shit, Also, you don't even take damage here, which is kinda strange by Ninja Gaiden standards. I get this is more for any new fans entering the series who might not be familiar with the lay of the land here, but this shit is catering to someone who just started playing video games yesterday. In terms of general first impressions, I didn't really know how to feel about Yakumo so far in terms of controls. It was abundantly clear that this guy does not control like Ryu whatsoever, and right now, this sorta feels like how a Ninja Gaiden game should play, but not exactly. Like, it's not bad, but it'll take some getting used to. There's some stuff left over from Ryu's base kit, like UTs and shurikens, but Yakumo's combos are pretty distinct from the usual Ninja Gaiden formula due to his main gameplay gimmick, the Blood Raven form. It's fundamentally an additional weapon with its own similar moveset to the base weapon, with some additional properties sprinkled in.
I think I like this twink.
For example, Yakumo's dual swords meld into one big bloody odachi. Understanding what this is and how to use it is the basic bitch bread and butter to his combat. This ability has a lot more utility than just extending combos. Either way, Yakumo's train ride is over, and we get a good look at the state of things at this point in the Ninja Gaiden timeline.
Here we are.
Tokyo City. Can't believe how much it's changed.
Intro was a little long, but the title drop is cool. After Yakumo narrowly escapes this shit, we get a quick lore dump from an unknown lady with a husky ASMR voice. Damn, we haven't gotten a well and true lore monologue like this since the intro cutscene in Ninja Gaiden Black. The gist is that somehow, the Dark Dragon has returned. You know, the Dark Dragon. No, not that one. This Dark Dragon. The cursed blade our boy in black, Ryu Hayabusa, went on a bloody one-man crusade across an entire nation's capital to reclaim from his burned village, only to find out his uncle orchestrated the whole thing one brisk Tuesday afternoon because he was really bored and wanted to play a funny prank on his nephew. The one he smashed into a million pieces of glitter. That one. It came back. Well, not the blade itself, just the evil inside of it. The actual dragon. This is actually kind of a recap of the events of Ninja Gaiden Dragon Sword of all fucking games, and it's the one, go figure, I never bothered to cover because of course I was able to predict that the next mainline game would be referencing the DS spin-off game's final encounter. Unless Mystery Narration Lady is referring to an unknown third appearance of the Dark Dragon prior to this game's events, then I'm totally talking out of my ass. But by that logic, she mentioned several years ago the Dark Dragon resurrecting again, marking this as the fourth time? Wait. No, that doesn't make sense. This would be the third time. Regardless, lo and behold, Ryu goes out and takes care of business. But the dragon's corpse remained. The residual blood dripping perpetually from its massive cadaver flooded Tokyo and basically cursed, and continues to curse, the entire city, now basically serving as a containment zone for the dragon's remains. That's what we're working with here. And, you know, I was confused, and I've still got a lot of questions, but first, we got the rest of the tutorial, because surprise, that shit is still going. Welcome to several days earlier. Since we're still stuck in tutorial hell, we're gonna talk about our protagonist. Yakumo's design is decidedly quite different from our usual man with sword we play as in the series, and overall I can't help but feel that his design garnered a lot of mixed reactions. Some people were not receptive to Yakumo's edgier design and overall demeanor, but honestly, I think it works. Say what you want about techwear fashion, but it does suit a futuristic ninja in a cyberpunk cityscape really well. As much as I love Ryu's gimp suit, neck down and beyond, this never really screamed ninja. They lay out more story shit here, namely the clan Yakumo belongs to, the Raven Clan. The newest in a setting of already pre-existing clans they could have used instead, but you see, the Raven Clan was always here, in the shadows, as a sort of subsidiary to Ryu's clan. Think like Hayate's clan, he had like The Tenjinmon and Hajimon kind of same thing. The Raven clan does underground wet work, while the Hayabusa clan thrives. Which is an interesting choice of words when talking about Ryu's clan. Ignoring that, one of Yakumo's comm buddies explains that it's their duty to slay the Dark Dragon Priestess to end its influence for good. So that's why we're here. This aforementioned priestess is holed up in this maximum security facility guarded by like 5 dudes. The stealth mechanics from Razor's Edge make an unexpected return here. Thankfully, unlike that game, it's entirely optional. Though there's really no point during this section, since we still can't take any damage thanks to this Weenie Hut Jr.'s ass tutorial. You can also pull it off just running down motherfuckers so you don't have to tiptoe around like it's Splinter Cell, but for the most part, it's the same mechanic. Up ahead through this ominous red tunnel is our target. The super important, heavily guarded priestess was just chilling in here in this surprisingly cushy ass cell.
Hey there. Come on in.
This is the husky-voiced ASMR narrator lady from earlier. She can tell our guy here is on official business, and right before Yakumo decides to carve her like a pumpkin, hits him with a curious truth nuke.
You have no idea, do you? What your prophecy really means?
What are you talking about?
She goes on an awfully long tirade about the Dark Dragon, how the Raven clan are descendants of the Dark Dragon, the same way the Hayabusa are descendants of the Divine Dragon, how the Dark Dragon can be slain, but the Dark Dragon will always come back, and that right now, the Dark Dragon
If you
is
kill me
sealed.
now, the seal's on the Dark Dragon. Dark Dragon.
Dark Dragon.
Dark Dragon.
Dark Dragon.
Dark Dragon Blade.
The Dark Dragon?
Get to the point.
The point is,
The evil Dark Dragon.
The dragon's gotta be purified before they can kill it, and Yakumo's gotta help her. No point in Swiss cheesing her because then there will be no fulfilling any kind of destined prophecy. Now Yakumo's still not convinced. He is just here to kill her. But she does make a good point that the guy's got nothing to lose. Well, if she steps out of line, then her life is forfeit.
you have nothing to lose. What do you say?
One wrong move, and you're dead.
Yeah, sure, whatever.
Our protagonist sees these terms as acceptable. After all, the mission's still the same. She finally introduces herself as Sayori, and gives Yakumo a shiny rock she found on the ground for good luck.
Put her there, partner.
I'm already liking this protagonist. So far, Yakumo's edginess never seems to go too overboard. Guy seems pretty driven, and his standoffishness just seems to be a result of that. It's definitely a lot better than what Yaiba was trying to do. The duo run into this scary-ass motherfucker in the middle of the hall, and Yakumo's comm buddies tell him that this guy is indeed bad news, which is weird because his comms are supposed to be off right now.
I don't recognize you or your uniform, but if you're here to take Sayori away, think again.
Hey, it's the guy from Vanquish. I mean this in the nicest way possible, but this Kagachi guy is the most Platinum Games designed character I have ever seen. This is a Frankenstein patchwork of at least 4 different character designs from their past games, and it's awesome. Sayori somehow has this flash grenade she pulls out of her ass, and the two escape. Despite making a strong first impression, the Kagachi dude just kind of rolled over and let them leave, instead reporting the events to Ryu Hayabusa. So we're doing the Yaiba plot again, huh? I assumed as much given the game's marketing, but still, we are retreading some serious ground here and it's kind of funny. If Yakumo ends up getting a robotic arm, I think I'll genuinely shit my pants. Anyways, back to the present day.
Present day. Present time.
After the train blows up, our protagonist gently makes a landing somewhere in Tokyo, officially starting Mission 1. I abbreviated it for the most part in the video, but man, what a long fucking opening! Shit took like 20 minutes, and that's not accounting for the obligatory photo mode autism that took over my body briefly. It was kind of a whole lot of nothing gameplay too, just mostly story railroading to degrees even Ninja Gaiden 3 never hit. At least this time it's a bearable narrative, Even Sayori seems pretty chill so far. Not typical for a Ninja Gaiden game, but at least we can finally play the game now. I hope. I still haven't seen a single enemy.
Yakumo, come over here real quick.
So did I install the right game? Okay, this is pretty different from past games. Ninja Gaiden 4 consolidated the checkpoints and shop statues into just this big everything bagel menu, where we can buy things with Ninja Coin, as well as tackle sub-objectives in the level for money and items. If you pre-order the game, you can get Yakumo's slutty, snatch-waisted Dragon Twink skin here too. The final option here is a dialogue option, which literally hasn't been in the series since Ninja Gaiden Black, where you could talk to Muramasa and listen to him complain about economic inflation. Honestly, I fuck with all of this. It's charming. I'll talk about the missions when they're more relevant, but the general function of this is pretty nice. Even has some chill music while you take a breather from the action.
Do they have social links in this game?
The dialogue is never anything you have to engage with, and it's mostly just characterization for those who care, aka me and maybe 4 other people on this earth. You can access all the shit you buy from this wheel, including the classic healing elixirs as well as new stuff, like these buff items that can bolster Yakumo's attack and defense respectively. Up ahead is the first actual taste of combat in the entire game. Only took us a brisk 30 minutes to get here, and as a first encounter, this shit was pretty good. First of all, the music here, I know Platinum isn't afraid to cook some shit up, as is evidenced by Metal Gear Rising, but I was not expecting them to bring some of that energy here to Ninja Gaiden 4 with this fire-ass battle music. I'm biased, but I like the more metalcore sounding battle themes. Hell, even Ninja Gaiden 3 had a more metal-coated soundtrack, and that's one of the few things I can preach about that game aside from the combat. On my first run, I had a bit of difficulty adapting to Yakumo's toolkit since, 1, his moveset is baby mode at this point in the game. You barely have access to fundamental moves Ryu would start with in the older games, like landing UTs. And 2, I keep trying to play Yakumo like Ryu. Now this actually persisted for several chapters until I finally understood that I'm playing a different character. This is a really solid first time encounter, all things considered. Enemies aren't too rough, but apply enough pressure to push you in the right direction. I died here a couple times my first playthrough until I got the basic groove down. First story MacGuffin is down, 2 more to go. If you're wondering what the hell we just did, I am too! Maybe this suspicious looking bird will have an answer for us.
Goddamn moment.
Hello.
I ain't
What the
giving
fuck?
you seeds,
Who?
bro.
Who are you? Who are you, bro?
What the fuck?
This humongous man bird is Tyron, and is our vendor for combat skills. One of many big changes, we've got a skill list instead of weapon upgrades that expand your moveset, though that's still in the game to a certain degree. I've said before I've never really been a fan of this. Ninja Gaiden's previous systems of upgrading weapons and juggling that with whether or not you should spend that essence buying items was a unique player choice that added a layer of extra decision making. Having the weapon upgrades and them almost evolving with new moves throughout your playthrough was gratifying progression. Buying those moves individually just doesn't really hit the same. That player choice between upgrades and items still exists here, since they share the same economy. I also never really understood why basic skills are locked behind these tiddlywink prices. Fucking 800 ninja coin for ultimate techniques? Why even bother? The MC4 and 5 had this and it was sort of annoying. There's new stuff here too, like Ninja Gaiden 4's riposte that goes hand in hand with its new parry system, as well as some other stuff. I'll talk about these as they're unlocked. For now, we're just buying the essentials.
If you want to test it out, now's your chance.
This is another first for the series, and legitimately one of the best additions they have ever made to Ninja Gaiden. A training room. Now I know it doesn't seem like much, but holy shit, this has got to be mandatory in every action game moving forward. Action games are often super demanding, skill-heavy games, and with skill-heavy anything, practice makes perfect. I would have loved something like this in past games rather than just sharpening my skills in random combat encounters like a lobotomite in Ninja Gaiden Black. The game offering the practice room after buying new moves is a nice touch for new players as well. I am an unwashed, greasy shut-in who is allergic to grass, however, so I have no need to practice these skills I've hit 1,000 times. Additionally, you can also talk to Tyron, who just has general flavor dialogue. This guy is something of a mentor figure to Yakumo, so their interactions always have this undercurrent of banter to them that's kind of entertaining. It's sort of like if Mirai from the first game was chill and helped Ryu throughout the game. I like it. The first level parts of these videos are always the longest, but there's a lot of shit to establish, so please bear with me. Up here you can get jump scared by a demon who turns your game off.
Oh my god, hacked. I
Oh my god. And we get a full view of Tokyo, where the level really opens up. So remember those missions in the shop from earlier? Those are your incentive to go out and explore the playable area, because going off the beaten path can wind up leading you to some optional fights. They're kind of like the ambush encounters from the first game, but those were more round based. These are mostly just one and dones with whoever's standing around in the arena. You'll get a nice direct deposit of ninja coin and whatever else when you head back to a checkpoint. While we're on the topic of level design, I wasn't too sure how to feel about the whole cyberpunk thing this game has going on, and at this point, I'm still just kind of lukewarm on it. Like, yeah, it looks cool, but at this point in the gaming industry, I've seen this exact cyberpunk aesthetic at least 4 to 5 times in the last couple of years. I think if this dropped in like 2015, it would feel unique, but it's just kind of worn out its welcome a bit by now. The obnoxious yellow paint is actually kind of insane in this game, and while indicators on where to go are nice, especially in a game with more open-ended levels, we have a locator button. This yellow shit is everywhere. Like, yeah, I get it's diegetic or whatever, but if it was a little less distracting, like Ninja Gaiden Black's blue paint, it would have been less offensive, but oh my lord, it really sticks out. Sometimes it does fit into the world a little bit more, like these yellow billboards, but that's really just an exception to the rule. Either way, I can't deny there's strong artistic direction here nonetheless. Hopefully the rest of the game holds up. After this combat encounter, we are finally introduced to the weapon-specific skills. You unlock these with a separate currency, because apparently one wasn't enough. These are the real meat of Yakumo's moveset, and some seem a bit underwhelming at first, but unlocking a move makes its Bloodraven variation available to purchase, so there is a lot more here than meets the eye. Okay. Okay, is this like a joke? Did the level design catch jaundice? Why is it so yellow? Yakumo's got a grappling hook now, in case you thought the Yaiba comparisons would end at the story beats. A couple more things carried over too, this is just one of a few. Off here to the left is a surprise I was not expecting. This flaming Torii Gate is what can be best described as Ninja Gaiden 4's Test of Valor, a combat challenge with 6 selectable difficulties with increasing rewards. The more you wager your soul, the less health you go in with. The highest tier shaving off 75% of your health bar. So of course, we need to do it on this difficulty. Inside is this rocky hell dimension with our usual vendors offering their services, which you will probably need given that these challenges do not fuck around. These UT skills are going to be necessary for completing this shit.
The grind never stops.
You're damn right. Notice how there's a 1. These are wave-based, baby. Okay, we're off to a good start. As tough as the health modifier makes this gate, it's miles off from the bullshit that was Ninja Gaiden 2's first Test of Valor. They're not throwing, like, late-game enemies out of the wazoo here, mostly just dudes we've already fought, and in respectable quantities so far. Honestly, these DDO guys are some solid fodder tier opponents. While they are fundamentally identical to the tactical ninjas from the second game, these guys feel more fine-tuned. Their ranged attacks aren't incessantly annoying, and they have a bit more variety with some using staves instead of swords. I kinda wish they grab punished more often to keep the pressure up though, but these guys work well enough within the framework of Ninja Gaiden 4, so I'll take it. Either way, it's a good challenge. Even this early on, this shit will push you into being a better player. And that's honestly more than what I can say for the old Test of Valor. I just kind of Azuna dropped and UT spammed that shit until it was over. Hard not to when it's purely a matter of survival. I still used UTs here in Ninja Gaiden 4's challenge rooms, but it didn't feel like I was cheesing it to get it over with. Also, I forgot to mention that Essence is totally different in this game. Essence orbs just heal now, but aren't a form of currency anymore, which kind of fucks with the whole point of them in past games, being a split-second decision in combat for clearing out enemies now, for healing, or for buying shit later. I feel like you either gotta go with hard mode on these or nothing. You'll get a better feel for the game, and they cut you a nice chunk of change for it too. To wrap up the exploratory shit, since I'd like to actually finish the level, Yakumo can track down this thing. Now, I don't know why, but this is the one thing I vividly remember from some of the pre-release dev interviews. They were hyping up this throbbing chode thingy like it was the next best thing, and had a feeling people would really like them. These are Ninja Gaiden 4's collectibles, kind of like the scarabs from past games, although I think they're a bit more like the Kodamas from Neo without the actual mechanical purpose, mostly on the basis of being a tiny munchkin thing you can track down and collect. These also exist solely for completing missions that call for them. Otherwise, there's no point tracking them down. They really front-load a lot of the optional stuff at the start of the level here. The rest of the level is going to be a lot more combat-centric. What's interesting is that you have the full option to just Batman Arkham some of these solely with the stealth mechanics. While stealth is not what I would ever touch a Ninja Gaiden game for, this is a rare example of being able to do anything remotely traditionally ninja in this series, so it's a nice novelty. An arena like this is more what I'm talking about. Unfortunately, we're still in the tutorial of the game! So this is here to show us how to use Yakumo's last important mechanic, the Berserk Gauge. It's a one-shot ability only triggered by certain Blood Raven moves, with the added bonus of a screen clear that uses the whole meter. It's cool, very flashy, basically just Yakumo's version of Ripper mode, but I can see how it can come in handy in a pinch. Oh my god, this first mission is a whole lot of explaining, holy fuck. The rest of the fight can be played out normally, and it establishes some stuff you'll notice going forward. Ninja Gaiden 4 has stupid big arenas, and to accommodate this, usually has grapple points for maneuverability. While it's a nice thought, mechanically speaking, it feels disjointed and weird to break away from combat to grapple away. It's not like, say, using the environment in earlier titles. You can still get away with utilizing walls in this game too, but it happens a lot less since the bulk of combat takes place in battle arenas that are the size of a football stadium. The usage of the grapple for general traversal across the level is fine though. That lends a nice bit of skill to the setting, though later levels get way too comfortable with this. The game really wants you to believe this is a big grand procession to the next objective. You're scaling chutes, there's like 3 fucking elevators going up, like I know we're going somewhere. Just kind of wished it was communicated a bit better instead of things just going up. Change how the level looks a bit at least. See what I mean? Does this look any different from where we started? Okay, it does look a bit more pristine though. There's definitely something important up ahead.
You've done well to make it this far, Reiki Ninja. Face me. Bring it.
Oh shit, here we fucking go. So this is the first boss of the game with the aura of a late game encounter. Why does he get this WWE style Titantron opening? Why does he have a ridiculously good battle theme? Why is this fight so good? I genuinely do not have an answer, but I'm not complaining either. DDO Commander, DDOC, we're gonna call him D-Doc. D-Doc is the strongest first impression this game could have possibly made. Just a bigger version of the dudes you've been fighting for the whole level in boss form. He really is just here to test what you've retained in the game so far, and above all else, I think I fuck with this boss so hard because he sorta reminds me of DOUKOKU. I was rambling about this in the Ragebound video, but I always said I wanted more enemies in this series that were like DOUKOKU from the first game. Just samurai type humanoid enemies, and I feel like the reason these guys are so fun to fight is due to a level of predictability. You can better anticipate what a dude like this is going to do over, say, a big spider man-thing. This level of familiar anticipation makes for a more predictable matchup, but I think that's where a lot of the joy can be found in fights like these. After all, prediction is easier to pull off than pure reaction, so it's no wonder it enhances the power fantasy these games pull you in towards. It lends itself well to making you feel like a badass. This works really well within the context of Ninja Gaiden 4's mechanics, which we are still just scratching the surface of so far. But knowing how to use Bloodraven here, as well as the parry/dodge mechanics, which I haven't even talked about yet, all come together to make a satisfying fight that had me hollering like a donkey my first playthrough. While it's not required here, Bloodraven can interrupt Itagaki's most damaging moves, and you could almost attribute this mechanic to Ninja Gaiden 3's Steel on Bone, which was far less forgiving and easier to bait out, and also demanded more risk-reward from the player. Interrupting these specific moves with Bloodraven breaks your guard and allows you to make a lethal opening, sometimes even dropping Blood Essence for healing or an ult technique that actually reliably works on bosses now. On top of that, Yakumo can parry for an opening, with your riposte either being a basic bitch attack, or if you have the meter for it, a Bloodraven attack for extra damage. If parrying isn't your style, perfect dodging opens an opportunity for both retaliation options as well. Fuck it, you wanna Sekiro this shit? Perfect blocking works too, because the perfect block and perfect parry are two different options. This is just the char on this juicy rare steak. This guy's got two phases with a fucking vocal track. What are we playing? Is that Victor Borba? The second phase really isn't anything too crazy. His combos are mostly the same apart from an AoE attack at the end of some strings, and everything from the last phase applies here. Overall, this guy is where a lot of my initial apprehension around this game turned right around into hype. I was fucking sold on this guy, and if the rest of the game is anything like this, then I think we're gonna be in for a wild ride.
It's done.
Great. I just finished opening their defenses.
Thanks.
Just one pylon left after this. Keep it up. All right, let's head to the last pylon.
This path should take you straight there.
Following our fight with DOUKOKU, Yakumo breaks the next MacGuffin thingy, and we're on to mission 2. With all the context establishing out the way, hopefully the rest of these won't take ages to talk about. So you know how I said the Yaiba comparisons wouldn't end earlier? We even got the rail grinding from that game. To be entirely fair, this is ripped straight from Ratchet & Clank, and I'm pretty sure it's in because Yuji Nakao, the great white hope of Platinum Games, is a fan of the series. Some people really hated this shit for no reason. And while I can see how it's annoying, it's purely to break up the levels from being long derivative hallways. I think there's worse ways to pace your game. I'm taking this over some half-ass platforming or puzzles any day. Please keep that shit out of action games. The rail sections are usually over before you know it anyways.
Looks like the DDO's caught up with you.
An ambush, more likely. Stay on your guard, Yakumo.
Nothing he hasn't handled before, right?
He's the Raven Clan's top ninja. Of course, he'll be fine.
I guess I haven't really touched on the characters we're dealing with this time around. As opposed to, say, Ninja Gaiden 3, with one dildo talking your ear off, Ninja Gaiden 4 has a whole crowd of dildos yammering in your ear for most of the game. I wasn't a fan of this in 3 or Yaiba, and Ninja Gaiden 4 could have done without it. It never made much sense for Ryu to have a SATCOM buddy, but in Yakumo's case, it does make way more sense, so I'm more willing to let it slide here. But man, I'm glad they don't talk that much, because 3 voices playing Jiminy Cricket on your shoulder is excessive. It doesn't help that 2 of these people we've never even met in person, Umi and Misaki. Umi is the nice lady in the darkness checkpoints with the penguin profile picture, and has known Yakumo for a long time. From their dialogue, we can see they've got a shared respect for each other and are good friends, which is sweet. The Misaki guy, on the other hand, is responsible for transporting our priestess Sayori to the shrine we're currently headed towards so she can undo the seal. The British accent is pretty concerning though. The last guy in this series who had one was kind of an asshole. I'm glad Tyron never chimes in over the radio, otherwise I'd probably just turn the dialogue down to 0 and dropkick my monitor. He is nice enough to check in on us though, and overall, despite all the chatter being somewhat annoying, I can't deny its nice characterization for everyone. You really don't get anything like this in the previous games. Now admittedly, Yaiba had this too. It's just a shame that everyone in that game was written by someone whose first game ever was Borderlands and failed to understand anything that made its writing clever or interesting. Miss Monday was also fine as hell, but honestly, Sayori clears, I'm afraid. Weirdly enough, they sound kind of similar, same husky voice, same vocal demeanor. They even have like the same like boob thingy going on with their outfits, but that's getting too analytical. This mission still has us prowling the streets of Tokyo. Sky City, Tokyo, sorry. This game does indeed confirm that this is the same Tokyo from Ninja Gaiden 2. Which still doesn't explain why it looks like this in 3, but they deliberately call it Sky City, Tokyo in the mission menu. Apparently the reasoning for the drastic jump in architecture is 1, this takes place decades after the last mainline title, and the Dark Dragon's blood rain flooded the city, so they just kept building higher and higher until it turned into what it is now. This doesn't really make any sense, but I guess they needed some reason for it since this was probably never supposed to be a Ninja Gaiden game. I can't really complain because in a lot of areas, it really does just look like an expanded Sky City Tokyo at times. Only drearier and wetter. Over here, Yakumo can find a black scale, which when combined with this random piece of lint in his pocket, turns into our health upgrade for the game. I always liked the Life of the Gods gimmick from 1 and 2. It really encouraged exploring every nook and cranny just to edge ever closer to a health upgrade, and this ever so slightly mimics that. Also, there's like 3 entire screens we're forced to watch before we can get back to the game, which annoys the fuck out of me. Here's a combat section with the DDO guys. I don't even think I mentioned who these guys are and why they're here. The Divine Dragon Order, the DDO, is functionally a PMC that's taken over Tokyo to secure, contain, and protect the Dark Dragon's remains and deal with whatever crawls out of the sea of blood it's left behind. These guys are basically mercenaries, and man, they are really just some solid-ass enemies. I couldn't really get into it much earlier, but they have a lot of charm to them. These guys take after Ninja Gaiden 3's jobber tier enemies in the sense that they're voiced. The original intention in that game was for them to scream in agony and make the player feel bad because of the whole characterizing Ryu thing that game had going on. In the definitive version, Razor's Edge, their voice lines were boiled down solely to a handful of combat cries and introductory lines. The DDO dudes have a surprisingly robust array of voice lines during combat. They'll scream after cutting off their legs, cutting off their arms. General battle cries, like, even their death quotes genuinely had me feeling a little bit bad. D-Doc had a handful of lines that were some fun Virgil tier shit talking. It's a nice change of pace. After all, 1 and 2's human enemies were just hordes of faceless, angry ninja. These guys are also just a ton of fun to fight. They fall a bit more into the punching bag territory of DMC enemies rather than Ninja Gaiden 2's glass cannon ninja that were as deadly as they were delicate, but only somewhat. I do wish they were more aggressive, not just with grabs like I said earlier, but I wish they'd hound you more. Increasing the enemy count wouldn't hurt either, just saying. These flying ones are insanely obnoxious though. Ninja Gaiden 3 had these guys, but you had a whole ass bow and arrow then. The best way to deal with these guys for now is either Flying Swallow, or utilizing the Dual Swords Blood Raven Wukong Pole Vault install and just slam dunking them into the pavement. I mean, shurikens also work too. The rest of the level is broken up by a lot of this rail grinding, and Yeah, I can kind of see the complaints now. This is a lot of time we could have spent fighting something or someone. This shit basically just ramps up into a roller coaster past this point, and wow, these are some really conveniently placed grind rails. This demon we're tracking down must be really nice. Up here is the last pylon MacGuffin thingy, and they've got a whole mini-boss guarding it. This thing's alright. I was really expecting it to be harder, but he doesn't put up much of a fight. Pretty easy to parry too, since he's looking around this giant handbat. This execution is sick, however.
Enemies neutralized. Taking out the pylon now.
Last one. Nice work.
This was on the shorter side. I was kind of expecting this to be longer. Alright, mission 3. Hopefully this one isn't a box of oops, all rail segments. Level design is starting to look a bit different too. About time. Nice to see more industrial/utilitarian aspects being put into play here. We can finally get our hands on enemy step and guillotine throw. First two missions were honestly annoying without them. Even with Ninja Gaiden 4's stark combat differences, I still feel like these two are absolute essentials. I noticed right off the bat guillotine throw felt 10 times easier to hit consistently. A large part of why I was initially turned off from this back when I first played the first game was the positioning needed to pull it off, only warming up to it in 3. But in 4, every enemy seemingly has their own magnetic field independent of the ground they're walking on, so Yakumo will gravitate towards them at breakneck speed. No pun intended. This is especially funny when combined with Guillotine Throw's own magnetism, which results in shit like this. I'll talk a bit more about the enemy magnetism in a bit, as it is a pretty big talking point around the game, but for now, Guillotine Throw is about as goated as it usually is. Enemies thrown into walls now have this satisfying whack accompanied by a special spark effect, and it has considerably more weight behind it. Given how Ninja Gaiden 4 has way more pitfalls, throwing enemies off ledges is a near constant option in combat, and of course, the DDO guys have unique lines as they plummet hundreds of feet downwards. Nice details all around, I like it. Yakumo's next destination is the Dark Dragon Shrine, guarded by a demon hidden away in Tokyo's Phantom Pleasure Quarter. The city from the first game also had a pleasure district. Conveniently enough, it was littered with cat girls, so that tells you about everything you need to know about that. Keeping up with tradition, this one features a giant kitsune lady, and holy shit, this is a boss. Alright.
Is that the demon?
Wow, that didn't take long. Well, good luck. You got this.
Let's dance.
This guy is a fucking dork. The boss goes down suspiciously fast. I'm talking I skipped like 10 seconds here, and judging by the lack of a brutal finisher, we probably have not seen the last of her.
Wait, it's not
Yeah, I called it. Entering the Pleasure Quarter proper, we've got a distinct lack of DDO presence, and now the game starts throwing the Fiend/Demon roster at us. We've got these huge Oni enemies as our first taste, and these guys aren't anything too crazy on their own, but in groups, it's a different story. Eventually you'll see
Who are you?
the fuck?
Here to take your head.
What? So earlier on, if you accepted a mission to take care of a food thief, this is where you'll find him. At first I assumed this was some kind of gag encounter where we beat some normal guy senseless, but this dude is far from normal. The Portland crack addict representation in this game was not what I was expecting, but it's certainly a warm welcome addition because holy shit, this guy was weirdly tough. It's not even a bad fight, it's actually fun. Hard to beat a dude with sword versus dude with sword fight, and you can unleash on this guy with just about anything you can do to the rest of the enemy roster. Weirdly solid fight, and bro somehow tanks all of this.
Shit, time to bolt!
Level design takes a decidedly more claustrophobic turn here, and damn I fuck with it heavy. Though I seriously wish they leaned more into the stylistic change. It still feels a bit too utilitarian, and if they made it more cozy and leaned more into the red light district vibes, I think it seriously could have stood out more, but it feels more like they painted this vibe over a metal catwalk, it's not entirely different from the past hour or so of the game, apart from warmer lights and the glitchy, like, infamous second sun neon bullshit flickering through the alleyways. We're a little too consistent with the cyberpunk, everything is chrome and looks like an Amazon warehouse aesthetic. We can tone back a bit on that. This also, unfortunately, introduces the worst enemy in the game. These kamikaze lanterns that are some real Team Ninja bullshit you would have seen way back in something like Black. We're reaching Ghostfish territory, and that's comparable to being likened to Adolf Hitler. Not only are they going to hit you with ranged bullshit from across the arena, but they leave a sizable explosion on death. Sometimes, honestly, whenever they feel like it. Lump these assholes in with the Oni enemies, and I pray you have your perfect dodges down. Speaking of which, this isn't really a mechanic I talked too much about at the start, so now's a better time than ever. Ninja Gaiden 4's perfect dodge is one of 4 defensive options at Yakumo's disposal, the other 3 being block, perfect block, and parry. A lot of people saw this and immediately started screeching that it's identical to Bayonetta's Witch Time, which, beyond the actual dodge offset animation, and these 2 games being made by Platinum, are nothing alike. This doesn't launch Yakumo into a unique state where he has a, time slow advantage over the enemy that leads into this entire animated QTE rigmarole. It's just a dodge that opens the enemy to retaliation either with a standard riposte or a Blood Raven one, which you should be opting to do if you have the meter to spare. It's the second least effective method of defense aside from blocking, since the actual ripostes aren't the greatest, and really are only good for guard crushing or getting some breathing room. The other 2 methods are far more destructive, but we'll save that for later. These Oni enemies are some tough customers, having so little to work with this early on. Not to mention they're built like brick shithouses, so they're not going to go down that easy either. They play pretty aggressively, but are telegraphed well enough to not be impossible to parry if you want the best opening possible. Hell, you can Azuna drop them too if you manage to stagger them hard enough. Oftentimes it's the most satisfying way of dealing with them if they don't manage to counter it. I feel like a lot of people would call these guys spongy, which compared to previous games, yeah, and not really. Ninja Gaiden 3 had elite tough guys that Ryu either had to whittle down until their armor broke, or if they didn't have armor, just whittle down gradually until you got a D-limb. Now this worked for Razor's Edge because of Steel on Bone. You'd want to bait that out or wait for an opportunity to hit it on those guys so you can get them out of the equation quicker, or wait for a weaker guy to do it instead, play aggressively and gain Bloody Rage to deal with them, nimpo them when you want to kill some strong guys while you're at it, yada yada yada. If you played that game, you get the idea. But the point still stands that it's not exactly alien to have enemies on the roster that can take hits like fucking Broly. This worked for the spongy enemies in Razor's Edge, so how do they fare in 4? Well, thankfully, not only do we have the 3 defensive opening options I just talked about, but Blood Raven exists as well. If you're not using these during combat, then no shit they're gonna feel spongy. It's almost like these are meant to be weaved into your combos, not just to break guard, but also to dish out more damage. The Wukong install is phenomenal for these guys since you can just spontaneously gain 10 feet of height mid-combo and either sweep the area below you or bring it down in a line. And of course, the Berserk gauge, so easily forgotten, will one-shot anything that's not a boss, which conveniently uses Blood Raven at the same time. Maybe it's just the way I played, but I never found them too spongy. Definitely can take more punishment than the DDO guys for sure. Yakumo enters what's totally not the run-up for the boss of this level, and ooh, there's spooky ghosts! This game did release a week or so before Halloween. We made it to the shrine, which means...
You've made it! The shrine should be right below you.
Got it.
There she is. This boss isn't all too bad. A pattern that will continue to the end of the game is that almost all of Yakumo's abilities can be exploited against the entire boss roster. Every single one will have a guard break opportunity, you can parry, You can perfect block, perfect dodge. Hell, Berserk can lay down massive damage and stun if you want to use that too. This has opened conversation to a dilemma regarding Ninja Gaiden 4's design. Are these bosses possibly too streamlined? Some could argue that this removes any unique approach to a boss fight because, well, they can all be beat the exact same way. So how did we handle boss fights in previous Ninja Gaiden titles? I seem to recall in a game like Ninja Gaiden Black a great deal of distinction between the bosses in that game. You didn't fight Mirai the same you fought the Bone Dragon, for example, or the Bone Dragon didn't play the same as Pazuzu, Pazuzu didn't play the same as the tank, or the helicopter, or, oh dear heavens, who could possibly forget Jotunfrau? These all play pretty distinctly. Now let me ask you this. How many of these were genuinely fun? How many left you with any kind of feeling beyond... Oh, alright. Mirai is goated, both Alma fights, Doku, shit, I'll even throw Marbus a bone, but was the Bone Dragon really memorable beyond... These bone projectiles fucking suck, and I hate these bugs. Do you genuinely look forward to the tank and helicopter fights every time you replay Black? Was Jotunfrau a fight that really blew you away with how interesting or unique or anything at all? Remember these guys? How about the Tentacle Demon? Hey, even better! Let's talk about Ninja Gaiden 2's boss roster of random Call of Duty Beast Warfare bosses like the Gigadeath, Water Dragon, Giant Gargoyle, Giant Armadillo, Huge Worm with a human skull, tunneling underground, 2 Giant Armadillos, intermixed with some of the coolest demon/ninja overlord fights in the character action genre. Didn't you love how much this fight didn't allow you to play this game like Ninja Gaiden 2? Or this one? Or most of them for that matter? Listen man, I love the Greater Fiends, and Genshin is still one of the more underrated rival fights in action games, but Ninja Gaiden as a whole is not particularly known for a stellar boss roster. It's not hard to imagine why some of these changes to the bosses in Ninja Gaiden 4 do not bother me in the slightest. I can utilize Yakumo's core mechanics even in boss fights. Staggering lets me utilize shurikens to extend my combos. I can open bosses up with a variety of defensive tools with different risks/rewards. A perfect dodge isn't going to set you up like a perfect parry is, nor is it going to do as much damage, but I'll probably go for the former since it's safer. I'd argue this game fixed this series' long-running issue with horrifically inconsistent boss fights, because they're exactly the opposite. This is as consistent as it gets. Black wasn't as bad as 2, admittedly, but I'll die on the hill of RNG Flying Swallow on bosses like Alma being simple bad game design. Oh, we couldn't balance this move correctly against boss encounters? Let's just leave it up to the number messiah and call it a day. Yeah, I fucking kneel, bro. This is peak game design. The bosses in Razor's Edge? Just watch my video on that by this point. I had plenty to say there. Long story short, I like the changes for the most part outside of bosses now feeling just a bit too easy. Though my first run was a different story. What? This is where I was really hitting the learning curve of 4 and the pieces started to click. At this point, I was still trying to play Yakumo like Ryu, and I was getting shit on attempt after attempt, but eventually, the pieces started to come together in my brain, and this fight wasn't half bad. Yakumo cuts down the demonic courtesan, and we finally arrived at the first shrine. Ciotti pulls up and we finally get a good look at Misaki, who's, oh my god, get this, white, blonde, wearing glasses, and he has a British accent. Hey guys, not gonna believe this, but I've seen this before. This guy totally will not be evil, and he absolutely will not turn into a giant monster. Racial profiling aside, Sayori begins purifying the seal with her dark dragon magic. Each shrine was sealed with a weapon, so naturally that's good news for us.
So, it's all yours.
Right.
Oh shit. Afterwards, Sayori starts flirting with Yakumo, but he gets nervous and walks away and tries to play it off to preserve his ninja honor.
Just doing what needs to be done.
I don't know, guys. I think he might be more relatable than Ryu, but that's just me. Next mission. Mission 4 gives us a much needed change of scenery, as well as a new weapon. Yatosen, I think, is the next weapon in Yakumo's arsenal, and I've got quite a few things I want to say about this thing. First and foremost, I've wanted a rapier type weapon in Ninja Gaiden since I played Razor's Edge, the Regent of the Mask boss, or Dickweed as he's known on the streets, was armed with a robust rapier moveset that we as the player never got to play around with ourselves, something that was doubly surprising when you team up with the guy at the end of the game and see that there's some serious potential in a rapier weapon in a Ninja Gaiden game. Thankfully, Platinum has rectified this, because Yatosen is about everything I've wanted from this idea and then some. This thing screams single target priority damage. The light combo alone flings Yakumo across the screen like he's wearing Heelys, not to mention it's got a reliable Helmbreaker. Now its Bloodraven form, oh wow. This is a Bayonetta-ass weapon, and I mean that in both the best and worst ways. This thing looks like it's at least 2.5 Yakumos long, and it sounds like a meat grinder, as it should. Using it on enemies is stupid satisfying, and we haven't even upgraded it whatsoever. This is just the beginning. Now, as cool as this is, and as much as I will glaze the Yatosen, motherfucker, this isn't a Ninja Gaiden weapon at all, and it sort of feels like jumping the shark a bit in terms of series consistency. Why would a ninja use this? Like, yeah, Ninja Gaiden 2 had a scythe larger than Ryu's entire body, but it wasn't like an elaborate clockwork contraption. It's nitpicking, I'll admit it, but this is like if they gave Nero a giant pipe wrench as his signature weapon in DMC4. Not saying it wouldn't be awesome, but I'd also be asking, is this really what a holy knight would use? Still love this weapon to death. Wonderful addition. Yatosen, similar to Yakumo's dual katanas, gets the most out of its Bloodraven moves when you hold the inputs, but unlike the katanas, this will rip and tear enemies apart for the entire hold duration like an oversized blender, finishing with a damaging blow that throws enemies across the screen. Needless to say, this uses a shitload of your meter and holding it is best saved for the end of your combos, but goddamn if it isn't satisfying. This is the closest thing this series will get to straight up just giving you a chainsaw. Kinda crazy how good this thing is just in general. Damn near feels like it outclasses the dual swords right out the gate, but the UT, it isn't as good. Regardless, Yakumo's on his way to the next shrine, somewhere deep in the mountains of Fuhaku Sanctum. This is a great palate cleanser after Tokyo. I was worried we were going to spend the whole game staring at chrome plating and yellow walkways. The Sanctum is our natural outdoorsy area for the game, and in the pre-release footage I thought this place was going to possibly be within proximity to the Hayabusa village or something, but no such luck. This does feel like a Team Ninja-ass area. Wouldn't be surprised if they did the bulk of the concept work for this part of the game. Modern Team Ninja, I should clarify. The next few missions look like they were ripped straight out of Neo 2. Something about the drab, rainy cliffsides and general visual flavor is striking. This part of the game has some of my favorite visuals, and honestly I fuck with this aesthetic pretty heavy. I legit kinda wanted more visuals like this in video games, and I'm glad Ninja Gaiden 4 was able to deliver. With a shift to more sacred grounds instead of city streets, we have these new Tengu enemies to deal with as well. And these things have taken on a couple of different appearances throughout the greater franchise. We've had buff Tengus, fat Tengus, Neo Tengu, my beloved, and now fun-sized Tengus, along with these shield demons that are nigh impenetrable to anything short of your Bloodraven moves. In case you were worried we'd be hanging off of cliffs the whole chapter, we get some cave action up ahead, and holy shit! This is an awesome view. I'm glad this game brings back some of the slight visual spectacle from Ninja Gaiden 2. You often had these central structures or buildings you worked your way towards in that game that lended a nice sense of scale and adventure to a given level, and Ninja Gaiden 4 does this here and there too. It's a nice detail. Also, this kinda looks like Half-Life 2 Episode 2. Yakumo gets his next traversal option here, a glider. A lot more ninja gadgets this time around. We never really saw Ryu need any crutches like this. As far as I'm concerned, the guy would probably just levitate through the air via sheer force of will. As good as the drill is, I don't think it's best suited for the Tengus, though it tears up the shield guys pretty nicely. I like that so far there isn't any right tool for the job shit going on here, and I'd say that's a strong suit for the Ninja Gaiden series. Some weapons do things better than others. I'd always opt to use the Devil Arrow against the Red Fiends in black rather than something like the Lunar, or how the Scythe was a bit better suited against crowds than the Flail in 2. Same shit applies here, but now just with on-the-fly weapon switching. I genuinely feel like this feature was long overdue in this series, not even for any kind of combo potential or whatever, but just straight up to maintain the flow of combat and in terms of quality of life. I can give similar praise to the consumable wheel here too, using this stuff at the press of a button instead of two, or even pausing the game for a second in the submenu. Rest of the level isn't anything too crazy, just some more hang gliding, a purgatory gate which wasn't too hard but I ended up dying in the most bullshit way possible, and we're at the end of the level before we know it. Yakumo and Umi talk about the big one-arm guy we saw at the start of the game, and they're really hyping this dude up. I mean, you don't put this much effort into the character design and presence in one of the game's major factions for nothing, right? I mean, he was in the trailers too. Something tells me he's going to be something of Yakumo's rival in this game. Here's to hoping we have multiple fights with him. I suppose we still have some time before then, so to close out the level, we've got one more fight ahead of us.
Close by. Just hang tight and I'll perform the sacred ritual to... Wait, what was that sound?
Destroyed it.
I love this guy. I'm sorry, this trope will never ever get old. I think Yakumo's really starting to grow on me if this is how he's being developed. Too bad he falls victim to mankind's oldest enemy. Win. After barely surviving a brisk gust, Yakumo ends up in the deepest depths of the Sanctum's valleys, and is instantly hounded by these... I think they're dogs? These dog man things in ghost costumes. You're throwing the lanterns in the mix here too? And the shield guys? I'm not really looking forward to this chapter. This is some nasty work. So something that will begin to really annoy me, visually speaking, starts here. I mentioned this earlier and I'll mention it again. The bottom part of the Sanctum looks almost identical to the upper sections, and spoiler alert, when we get to this so-called shrine all the way up the mountain, guess what? It also looks the same. Look at these two clips. Which one is from the base of the mountain and the top? I can't tell either. It's like slightly darker down here, and that's about it. Tyron mentions that he's not entirely sure leaving Sayori with Misaki is such a good idea, considering the treacherous nature of the path upwards, given the guy is the intellectual type. A nerd, if you will. Which does raise the legitimate question, how the fuck are these two getting to the shrines unscathed? This Misaki guy ain't doing shit, and unless Sayori has some kind of dark dragon magic missile we're not privy to, it's a mystery how they aren't getting torn apart by demons by now. Half the time we just hear Misaki info dumping on some dork shit no one asked about. Why isn't Tyron escorting her? Anyways, the path ahead leads us through some caves, and have caves ever been a particularly interesting area in any action game ever? I think we gotta remove caves like this from games in general. At least make them large and spectacular like in Ninja Gaiden 2. These small cramped caves are visually dull and are never really fun to fight in. Especially if you can't even use the environment to your advantage like the ones in Ninja Gaiden Black. Honestly, that's something you can extend to most of the game so far, is that it kind of feels like there's less of an incentive to use your surroundings outside of the Platinum Games design grapple points. You might be wondering what the difference even is, but in my defense, it feels a lot more natural and honestly just cool to use a random wall or surface in the arena to hit a flying swallow, Helmbreaker, or even spring off for a UT than to use this big, just like blinking bullshit that barely grapples correctly half the time instead. It doesn't flow with the combat well since you have to almost entirely disengage from who you're fighting to use it, and it was always something I really liked about the first game. Oh, this guy again? I almost feel bad this time. Nothing personal, bro. The drill will turn this once honorable duel into a genuine homicide. And this is where you may first discover one of Yatosen's greatest strengths. It basically auto-parries. Makes sense considering Ninja Gaiden 4's parry system is quite distinct from past games. In olden days, the parry input was relegated to a light or heavy attack input timed correctly after a block, and was a good way of breaking out of sticky situations, even delimbing in 2 where it was a little less practical due to the grab spam. Here in 4, parries are reworked to trigger as soon as your attack collides with an enemy one, and your 2 options are either a default basic bitch riposte or a Blood Raven one. Additionally, perfect parries are another option with tighter timing. With that being said, it makes perfect sense why the weapon that continuously attacks would be perfect, busted even, when it comes to a broken-ass blend of immaculate offense and defense. I know I said earlier that the weapons feel pretty much on equal playing fields, but this boss proved to me and most people I knew who played that this weapon, on top of its disgusting single target damage, can basically auto-parry bosses. This is your boss melter. And we still didn't get to kill this guy. He's gonna be back again, isn't he? Swear to God, if this guy is a rival fight for this game, I'm gonna eat my entire chair in a fit of anger. Working our way back up the valley, Yakumo's got plenty of monuments left to desecrate. This has to be invoking some kind of bad juju or karmic debt. Next thing we know, Yakumo's arm is gonna be covered in red veins as punishment for his transgressions. The path upwards is gonna utilize a lot of these glider segments to the point where it's gonna start feeling excessive. Like, yeah, I don't mind it here and there, but this is too much. There's not even cool shit to look at, just mud and rocks, and it's triggering my PTSD from playing the B-movie game when I was like 6. On the bright side, I like the direction the level design is going in. I was a bit too quick to judge earlier, but having these haunted, dilapidated villages hidden deep in the valley, infested with demons, is a massive step up from before. Granted, this is like 90% of Neo 1 and 2, so Team Ninja just sort of copy and pasted that shit over. But can I really complain? This shit looks awesome! More please! It really hits its apex in the next area with these Torii gates. You can stealth this section if you want, but that's pussy shit.
What does the Dark Dragon Priestess even do?
The priestesses are the chosen protectors of the Dark Dragon. Ever since the Dark Dragon.
Dark Dragon.
The Dark Dragon.
Enough talk.
Thank you. Glad this guy spoke up. I heard a lot of people draw general comparisons between Yakumo and Raiden, specifically MGR Raiden, but I honestly don't see it at all. Raiden was a real chatterbox in Revengeance, and in terms of characterization, what in the world do these two have in common besides being edgy ninja dudes? They don't even sound that similar, which is one comparison I heard a lot. I still think Yakumo sounds like Reaper from Overwatch more than anything, and I cannot stop hearing it since I realized it. A lot of goodies in this area, and you can jump up here and get this Gordy.
Good boy.
And you can go down here to this shrine where, if you're paying attention, you can lock onto this big dingaling. Hitting the dingaling will spawn a chest, but also 2 lanterns in retaliation. Hit the dingaling again, and you will get 2 Oni. But, if you hit the dingaling a 3rd time, it'll spawn these elite Tengus, where if you hit the dingaling a 4th time, you can get this. We are 5 chapters in, and I have not so much as made a peep about Ninja Gaiden 4's accessory system. So you remember how back in Ninja Gaiden Black or Ninja Gaiden Sigma, you could put armlets or helmets on Ryu that made tiny, infinitesimal changes to the gameplay, like slightly more damage or slightly more defense? Ninja Gaiden 4 has something similar. Yakumo can equip a variety of different accessories that will influence his defense, attack, etc. Some can actually make pretty significant changes on your playstyle, the Ashen Pipe being an example. This thing will completely nullify the Berserk gauge, so easily forgotten, and you will just do Berserk insta-kills randomly. This was too much RNG for my taste, so I never used it, but I know people that went the whole game with it just fine. Bro, are you fucking kidding me? Yakumo's having less luck with bridges than Ryu at this point. The winds of fate take us instead, and we land at a new enemy. These guys are pretty bad. Might just be one of the worst in the game. The giant tea kettles. Okay, first and foremost, we know you guys made Bayonetta. Secondly, they act basically like light artillery during battle and require foremost attention in any given situation. The big problem I have with them is that they're just not satisfying to fight. Like, there's hardly any meaningful feedback when you hit them. And I mean, duh, it's a giant teapot, but I wish there was like more, like if it shattered progressively while you hit it, but it just kind of flinches and boom, it's dead before you know it. What I like about the other enemies in the game is that you feel like you're hacking away at fresh deli meat with each blow, especially with Blood Raven attacks. These guys, apart from the guard crushes, just don't have the same oomph behind hitting them quite like the others. Again, I get it's practically supposed to be a literal supernatural tank, and going off of the last time we fought a real tank in this series, I think I'll take this one and stop complaining. Still working our way up the mountain, and god damn these visuals are good. So moody and mystical. This echoes some details I really liked about Ninja Gaiden Black. The sky contrasting with the drab foreground reminds me a lot of Tyron at the end of the game. I know I complained about the yellow paint earlier, and yeah, it is still violently out of place for the most part, but I kinda appreciate these yellow flowers next to the wind gusts, and there's gonna be a lot of that for the rest of the level. I legit think the next 5 to 10 minutes is straight bird gameplay for Yakumo.
You're making good progress, Yakumo.
Am I close?
Sure fucking hope so, buddy.
Perhaps we could take a short break.
That's a good point. You have to wonder if she ever gets cold or like rope burn, you know, like right there. We cross another bridge that manages to actually stay together this time, and we find a sanctum. Not the sanctum, but a sanctum. Inside is a massive egg that starts shooting lasers, so I think we're still on track to the right place. This is a mini boss, I guess technically a fully fledged boss, that starts out in this dormant state that quite honestly isn't doing the fight any favors. You can shred its health bar in a minute flat here. Really all it's doing is teleporting and throwing out random bullshit that is until Is that Asura? Did I ever mention how fucking annoying the death comms are? We should have left that in Razor's Edge. I don't remember what this guy is called, so we're just gonna call him Asura. Why an entire pointless teleporting phase exists before this fight is beyond me. It kind of drags this one down as a result because this phase really isn't all that bad. It's not great either. I definitely like the arena here, but the actual fight has you dealing with these sweeping attacks, this telegraph section where his arms do like 4 different things before opening a painfully long guard crush window, and overall I just think he's really easy. Kind of falls into those whatever fights that make up the bulk of the bosses in this series. You could throw a propeller hat on this guy and it'd make the boss 2 times better, but for now, he remains a headless loser. This execution is unnecessarily hard. He didn't do anything to deserve it. Finally done with this level. This mountain part was starting to drag a bit. Hopefully the actual shrine is up ahead so we can get... Well, this is some bullshit. Never in my life have I been swindled like this. This is the 3rd time Yakumo's been swept away in the wind like he's fucking Flat Stanley. And now it's back to working our way back up. This entire little mountain arc goes on forever. Legit, when I was playing the game for the first time, this felt like it went on for 5 hours of my playtime. Points for the immersion because this really did feel like I was going on a pilgrimage. Tyron checks in with us at least, the guy asking how Sayoti's been treating us. This little interaction is nice, not just because it's giving us a window into the dynamic between these two, but also shows that Yakumo is a little awkward. He's definitely got Ryu's stoicism down, but there's also an introverted undercurrent beneath it all, paired with just a tiny bit of classic inexperienced vulnerability. It's a small, but pleasant moment.
Yakumo, you're getting close to the shrine. Keep moving.
No clue that's possible. Last I checked, we just fell 200 feet down another canyon onto our ass, but progress is progress. I noticed a considerable tweak in difficulty on this stage, and I don't know if it's just because I was gooning this goddamn game for damn near 7 hours straight my first playthrough, or if they actually just locked in for the end stretch of the mountain, but I was getting walked in a good chunk of these encounters. Lots of people ended up not being big fans of the mountain in general due to checkpoint issues. Guess where the worst of the checkpoints ended up being. This mission really is just a straight hour-long march through hell, so we're honestly not going to spend too much time on it. It's almost identical to the last one, but just more. On the bright side, there are a few more crumbs of characterization here with Sayori, remarking how locked in Yakumo is all the time, our protagonist bluntly replying with the fact that the mission is all that matters. Anyways, we've upgraded Yatusen's moveset quite a bit since we got it, and I still find myself using the regular old katanas just as much. They really shine here at this encounter that had me stuck for a good minute just because the checkpoints were complete buns. It also had me thinking, damn, I never use the berserk gauge. So easily forgotten. And damn, when I do, I never use the drill. This is admittedly because hitting these kills requires you to either charge your Blood Raven moves, or to use certain moves that explicitly say it'll trigger during Berserk. The Wukong install pole thing does just that, no charge required. Drill has the ultimate finisher too, but it's only gonna insta-kill anything immediately in front of Yakumo, not around him like the katanas. I think the biggest difference on this mission is literally the fact that there's more Oni enemies. These guys are bad in groups of 3 or more. God forbid you throw in a Tengu or 2. The enemy variety, honestly, not bad. These demons all together make for some high pressure situations that had me weapon switching just to survive. Then out of nowhere, the game throws a new Oni at you. A blue Oni. You could possibly even say an Ow Oni. Can you believe they throw 4 of these fucking things at you at once? 2 of them being the elite blue variants. This shit felt like I was getting jumped by battle beasts. One of these encounters is straight up diabolical. They put one of the tea kettles in this cave opening. Maybe the smallest crevice you could possibly fit this big ass thing into, and just flood it with bullshit. I kind of had to spam the pole vault here. It feels a bit cheap at times. There honestly isn't much else I want to say about this mission. It's kind of just straight combat with no frills, and really that's when this game is at its best. So maybe I'll let it speak for itself for now. God, are we finally out of this shithole yet, or is Yakumo gonna trip on a twig and get caught in a mudslide 1,000 leagues downwards again?
Must be this way.
The god of the mountain is probably waiting for you. And he'll be extra mad now that you broke all those statues.
Whatever.
We still doing this? Another mission on the mountain? I can see the peaks, for fuck's sake! How much Oh, there it is. The demons gotta be dead ahead judging by the vendors, so hopefully they've got something interesting to say. Tyron's back with another Unk speech. Yakumo mentions how the number of demons seems to be increasing after they broke the first seal, and Tyron replies with, well yeah, you are reawakening a god of evil after all, not to mention you're putting a pretty massive target on your back. He goes on to give this surprisingly character-rich monologue on the Raven clan's ethics and morality. Tyron's been around the block enough to recognize an image like that isn't anything new for their clan, and how some of their people, like Umi, complain about their clan's general reputation of doing dirty work. But the way he sees it, the whole world's fucked up. Everything is fucked, everybody sucks, and their people are just doing what they can to help, even if it means doing the type of work no one else is willing to do. Kidnapping, assassination, murder, etc. None of it's pretty, but it's never in the name of selfish gains. Sometimes morality's gotta be set aside for the greater good. Hell, they're a successor to the Hayabusa clan. It's a refreshing take on actual characterization in this series after sitting through hours of Ninja Gaiden 3's preachy, confused, Ryu is an anti-hero who needs to have his views challenged narrative, and just plainly accept that Yakumo is an amoral protagonist just doing a job. Again, no crazy leaps and bounds and deep characterization here, just simple stuff like this that sends the message. There's another purgatory gate here if you want to make this level feel like not 5 whole minutes, because all that's here is the Shrine Demon and that's it. Not sure why they gave this thing its own chapter. Honestly, not sure why we've been at this mountain for what feels like half the goddamn game so far either, so we'll just roll with it. Let's see what we came all this way for.
Yakumo, incoming!
Oh, we're fighting a god. What in the power scaling is this shit? Kurobo is our next big shrine demon fight, and this one was pretty cool. This whole fight is a well and true modern Team Ninja boss through and through. We're ending off this Neo-ass area with a Neo-ass boss. And goddamn, it works pretty well, all things considered. Kurobo's first phase is a little lackluster. He has like one combo and relies heavily on his summon tornadoes to knock you off balance. You'd be forgiven for thinking this boss is something of a joke your first run through. This big ass theatrical intro for what? Then, this dog turns into a jet, like he's fucking Starscream. Then the fight gets turned up to 11. Feels like a lot of these fights hold out on you until phase 2, and I'm not sure how to feel about that. On one hand, first run through, I didn't mind. The first phase and second phase are pretty similar, but the intensity is ramped up enough to feel distinct, leaving the first phase to feel like a well and true learning phase. The second phase feels like the actual application of the rhythm and dance from the first one, which works. I felt it was satisfying. I think in a lot of cases, the expectation for multi-phase bosses is that each fight either plays differently with a swath of different attacks, or some bosses straight up playing like a whole new encounter. But this approach is a lot more low-key and I fuck with it. Either way, Kurobo is no pushover. This guy gave me a real run for my money on my first run, and for one good reason. I ran this whole boss not even really using the drill when, for the past 3 missions, it's proven itself to be ideal in a situation like this. Not only because of the insane parry potential and single target damage, oh heavens no. The drill also excels in positioning, something extremely important in a fight where the boss flies around like a goddamn Harrier. Not to mention this attack where he goes full Sin Devil Trigger Virgil mode and turns into a jet. You either can fly up in the air with Yakumo's wingsuit, or just tank that shit full force with a well-timed attack. Guess what? The drill is perfect for that. Kurobo is going to flip back and forth between flying and paws on the ground, not to mention having a significant speed boost in his second phase, so you'll really have to be on your toes for this entire fight. I kinda wish there was more utility to the flying in this arena. It's purely for evasion purposes, and I think it's a bit of a waste, not giving it some sort of combat advantage. Like, I can't do a landing ult after falling down? That's bullshit. Feels more like a cheap gimmick than anything, but it's not required to beat the boss either, so it's inoffensive at worst. Either way, the drill almost trivializes this fight, so as long as you're leaning on it, the fight should be a breeze.
God or not, he'll die all the same.
I completely lost my shit when I beat this guy for the first time.
This is the first game for men!
After putting the dog down, Yakumo's cleared the way to the next shrine.
Good thing you had my support back there, right?
What fucking support, bitch? I didn't see you throwing bacon strips in the goddamn arena. Yakumo's got his own spin on the classic lunar staff. Neat. Well, that's 2 down. 1 more to go. If the last shrine is the last chunk of the game, then this is honestly on the shorter side for a Ninja Gaiden game. Oh! Is that the Alpha of Awe, the Brute of Brawn, the Cultivator of Class, the Duke of Domination, the Emperor of Eloquence, the Fiercest of Fighters? The hype is real. A proper Hayabusa fight in my Ninja Gaiden game? Take my money. Please take all of my money. Oh, it's over already. This isn't even for like a funny haha editing thing. Yakumo really does just get walked like this. So Ryu and Kagashi show up. First time our boy has even had any presence in this game since the opening cutscene. And obviously he's not going to let Yakumo run around unsealing these cursed weapons to revive the Dark Dragon. That's like a double negative. Ancient weapons and a plan to resurrect a being of pure evil? Talk about being a prime target. For the third time in a row, Ryu is now an unbeatable power dick in his own series. And of course, the duel ends in a crushing defeat for Yakumo. Kagachi didn't help the whole time. I actually have no clue what the guy has been doing in the background after chokeslamming Misaki out the side of the sanctum, but I think he figured Ryu didn't need the help. Sayori butts in last minute in an effort to save our protagonist's life, telling Ryu the whole world is at stake, which he ponders on about long enough for Yakumo to get the drop on him and throw himself off into the depths below. Also, he outran this dude Kagachi. Whatever hype they were building around this dude is really just not there, man. Afterwards, the two aren't sure what to do now since the Raven Ninja and his priestess are probably dead after a fall like that, and Ryu simply says he'll handle it. If you say so, dude. I don't know. The hype was definitely here for this fight, but overall it was a really anticlimactic ending to the chapter. Like, yeah, Hayabusa fight, very cool. But on the other hand, it's not even a real fight. You're supposed to lose to him, and it's just an appetizer for the real one further in the game. What's funny about this whole fight is that it really feels like it was supposed to be against Kagachi instead, considering how much intrigue they were building around the guy. But all he manages to accomplish is beating up a middle-aged British dude. So far, the game is pretty good. But man, this entire mountain chapter dragged for way too fucking long. We're about halfway through the game at this point, so we'll have to see if it picks up the slack in the second half. So far, this game has had ups and downs, but it's been pretty consistent. At the same time, the consistency it's been at is only hovering around a high 6 or low 7. Like, I really fuck with the combat, but it hasn't exactly blown me away yet. Enemies are cool, levels are okay, but like, I'm starting to think it's just alright. Yeah, I'm thinking it's a 10 out of 10 game, guys. There she is. There she is, my evil bitch wife. Out of 4 Ninja Gaiden games and 7 Dead or Alive games, not counting Extreme, this is the most insane Ayane design I have ever seen. Cannot believe she's actually in, with a unique outfit at that. Hopefully these 5 seconds of screen time isn't all my waifu gets in this game. Back to Yakumo, who has somehow ended up in a massive industrial sewer despite falling from a mountaintop sanctum just a few minutes ago. Sayori's down here too, and she's definitely... okay. Mission 8 brings us to the underbelly of Sky City, Tokyo. Though I'm confused about the proximity of this place to the sanctum. Is the sanctum, like, nearby? Can't be that close because there were no mountains to be seen until we landed there. We've also officially gotten our hands on Magatsi, a long staff emanating ghoulish aura. This weapon's gimmick is that it's a staff and an explosive hammer all in one. You heard that right. Explosive hammer. First thing I thought of when I saw this in the pre-release stuff is, hey, that kind of reminds me of the boom hammer from Bloodborne. And my god, this is everything the boom hammer should have been. No one is safe from Magatsi's wrath, and this is my personal favorite weapon in the entire game. The biggest thing that distinguishes this from Yakumo's other two is that the weapon's Blood Raven form is built around releasing the attack input instead of just holding it. A regular Blood Raven attack will hit your enemies with a nice meaty whack, but if you time your release just right, Yakumo will do additional follow-ups that will just break the sound barrier. The only thing I can reasonably compare it to is Yamato's Judgment Cut from Devil May Cry, but with less tight timing. The time follow-ups usually just land a big-ass explosion, but oftentimes extend your combos by a significant margin. If you're not hitting these releases, you're not using the hammer right. Back to the mission at hand, Sayori is apparently still alive after being turned into a luncheon, and we've got to track down her captor. Umi's shocked that Sayori just got bored by a giant magic shark, but all Tyron does is take one good look at us after falling thousands of feet into a sewer drain and hits us with damn. Yakumo fills him in on what happened back at the shrine, and apparently this is indeed the third time Ryu's defeated the Dark Dragon, the first 2 times being in Black and Dragon Sword respectively. Tyron mentions it was only a matter of time until the 2 cross paths, and Yakumo arrogantly says the next time they do, it'll be the last. Tyron hits him with a reality check and says it'll be no picnic if he's gonna pick a fight with the Dragon Ninja again, even more so if it's to the death. He doesn't have much else on offer in the way of skills anymore, just upgrades to accessory slots and sometimes the amount of hits our block can eat before it gets broken. This section of the game has maybe the most visual diversity, but by Ninja Gaiden 4 standards, it's really not much. The first chunk is kinda straight up, hey guys, we made Nier Automata, by the way, with all these impossibly big rusted pipes and dilapidated industrial environments, but the rest of the levels in this section shift quite sharply, as you'll see. The game also introduces fish. Demon fish. Not quite ghost fish, but demon fish. These feel like Platinum's take on the classic Stunlock Death Sentence ghost fish from the first 2 games, and while they aren't nearly as annoying as those guys were, they still can get the drop on you and make you stagger out of your combo, which is just enough to make them still a threat in large encounters. I like this take on the fish. You're even still encouraged to use a specific weapon to deal with them, just this time it's the staff instead of a flail. Over the comms, somehow this dude Misaki survived everything that happened at the Sanctum, and is still hale and hearty enough to help Yakumo track down Sayori. Following the shark's trail, we see what looks like to be the front door to a club with some DDO soldiers chilling out front. Maybe they're off duty right now. Like with any weapon in this game, the staff shines best against the DDO enemies. Goddamn, call it glaze! But if this was Yakumo's only weapon, you would not hear me complain. This shit is too clean. And the Berserk gauge, so easily forgotten. Using that with this thing? Bananas. Is this music playing in game?
My ears are about to bleed!
We've got company. I'll take them out and move ahead.
Oh shit, is this a zombie rave in my Ninja Gaiden game? As much as I like this, it's just a little too much like that one part from the DMC reboot. And say what you want about a level like this even belonging in a Ninja Gaiden game, it is pretty cool. A little bit of whimsy never hurt, guys. It's fine. It's okay. Now the enemies are another point of contention. I think zombies and Ninja Gaiden are a mix that will bring up a lot of bad memories for some people, but if we're looking objectively, the odd one out here is maybe Ninja Gaiden 2. The first and third game did have zombie type enemies, though they had extra quirks here and there. First game had the big giant zombies with axes and bows and shit. Third game zombies transformed into mutated fiends upon death, so admittedly it's not the most fair comparison. These are pretty much just flat out zombies, and they really aren't that great to fight. Certainly not a highlight of the game's enemy roster, and the worst part is that they make up maybe 60 to 70% of the encounters for the next few hours of gameplay. Grim, but moving along, we have the sushi gates that'll spawn enemies mid-encounter, which I don't mind all that much, but outside of just spitting out bullshit until you kill it, the game really wouldn't change much if you remove these. You'll see what I mean as we go along. The rest of the level's gonna take place in these graffiti-laden tunnels, and a lot of this artwork is neat. Overall, we're keeping consistent with the cyberpunk stuff from the first chunk of the game here, but some other sections are just straight up generic sewer, which I am never a fan of in any game ever. Another new addition to the enemy roster is down here, these ogre dudes. Boy, am I glad these guys exist. Otherwise, this entire Drown District part of the game would be utter dog shit. We aren't facing the Oni guys in droves anymore since we've left the mountains, but these dudes help keep that momentum up a bit. They're offensive pressure enemies that act as frontliners among the more swarm-based zombies and fish, and it's a dynamic that sorta works well with Ninja Gaiden 4's combat. The last surprise the Drown District has in terms of new enemies are a Ninja Gaiden staple, dogs. Of course, this game needed dog enemies. You know, it wouldn't be a Ninja Gaiden game without them. These are the least annoying dogs they've ever implemented in this series. And I can really say this about a lot of Force enemies that are evocative of past foes. The dogs in Ninja Gaiden 2 were just flat out awful. Even in the more forgiving versions, they would still pose a massive threat on the battlefield that demanded your full attention, more so than most other foes just due to their sheer speed and ability to grab you from across the screen. Here in 4, they've kind of leveled out with the rest of the enemy roster. I saw these guys for the first time and my stomach sank, but after fighting them, I was like, oh, that was it. That's when the game introduced these purple variants that feel like every attack just goes right for Yakumo's jugular. Hammer makes short work of these enemies. It's basically the solution to most of this chapter's combat. Don't mind me. I'm just surfing. You know, surfing in my Ninja Gaiden game. Apart from being an endearing, whimsical addition to Yakumo's character, is this really mechanically different from the rail grinding or flying? Like at all? My genuine question is, where is Yakumo's surfboard weapon? Fuck it! Where is my skateboard weapon? That would suit Yakumo perfectly. I still don't know why they bother putting these traversal gimmicks in combat arenas. You think I'm actually gonna use this shit mid-fight? All that's in here are these sushi gates, and even then they're not hard to deal with. If anything, that's the problem. They lack any kind of meaningful threat when you can just UT them or slightly brush against them using the hammer to take them out of the equation as soon as they're in. I also cannot tell what the fuck we're fighting anymore. Are these fiends or demons? Are the big ones just demons and the small ones what is the difference? The shark is in sight, and just like that, he's gone again. This motherfucker just jumped into a Fortnite rift.
Got away again.
Yakumo, just focus on the hostiles for now.
Understood.
At least this arena is cool. Time to put the hammer to good use. And speaking of good use, looks like this thing's good for interdimensional travel. The power scaling implications are frightening.
I'll force my way in. Where am I? Umi. Misaki. Come in.
As a rite of passage for every Ninja Gaiden protagonist, Yakumo has found himself in another dimension. This hell is a lot less lively than the other ones. It's sort of chill. I could get behind an eternity down here. Yakumo's got no comms, no path, and basically no way out from here. The next best thing is just moving forward. This is the prettier side of Ninja Gaiden 4's level design. I really do like how these hell levels look. The cold blue, aquatic-inspired atmosphere pairs well with the overall drab, rocky surroundings. It just sucks that most of the game has been drab, rocky, or otherwise urban backdrops. It's kind of like how in DMC5 the Clifot levels looked really cool because of the red contrasting with the black and gray roots, but the entire game's general color palette is also largely black and gray, so it loses its luster pretty fast. This game has the same problem. To be honest with you, I'm not quite sure what it is about hell in the Ninja Gaiden universe having human buildings trapped inside of it, but I genuinely think it's the most underrated aspect of both this underworld and the one in Ninja Gaiden 2. It's visually fascinating even without a concrete explanation. Leaves a lot to wonder, and that's how these fantasy elements should be in this series. The downside about this place is that it's filled to the brim with dogs and other bullshit enemies. It's about some of the least interesting combat encounters in the game, and I can't help but feel a bit cheated as a result. They're not even bullshit in the classic Ninja Gaiden way, but in a filler way. Like they don't really offer too much in the way of interesting combat situations. I also really hate dog enemies in video games, so that bias is certainly not helping Ninja Gaiden 4's case here at all, I am well aware. Despite all of this though, this is really where I started to fuck with Ninja Gaiden 4 as a game. For whatever reason, this is where the game started to ramp up for me in terms of enjoyment. Could be that I am really just digging the level design here, or because I had a good chunk of the Hammer's moveset unlocked by now. Could have been both. But something about this chapter I do simply enjoy, and I was looking forward to more. Maybe this game would have worked better as a chill surfing simulator with how much you're doing it in these hell chapters. I hate how relaxing it is too. I should not be enjoying this. The surfing straight up feels like a gameplay gimmick ripped straight out of the late PS2/early PS3 era, where they have some shit like this to show off the technology at the time. It's very archaic, and debatable whether or not video games should phase shit like this out entirely by this point. My argument is, let it be. Is something like this really that bad? Even from an action game standpoint, are games supposed to rigidly fit the arbitrary roles and features of their respective genres? I feel like it's something that restricts games as an artistic medium. Even a game like Ninja Gaiden Black is something I consider artistic, despite certain things and mechanics some people may consider archaic, and Ninja Gaiden 4 is no different. Things like these, gimmicks, weird shit that sticks out in a playthrough, experimental mechanics, stuff like this. This is the lifeblood of video games, and what makes them unique experiences. Much like life itself, no game will be a straight, consistent ride all the way through. It's those dips and highs, and how they accentuate one another, those weird moments you might remember for a while, forget for years, then suddenly something will vividly reawaken the memory. That's what the surfboard sections embody. Now, I will probably forget that this shit is even in the game after I upload this video. But someday down the line, I'll remember. Something will trigger it, and it'll put a smile on my face, remembering the time they put a silly fucking surfboard in a Ninja Gaiden game. You guys knocked it out the park with this idea, Platinum. I really do see the vision. The level opens up in these areas, and there's plenty of side paths that are really easy to miss. But unless you're looking to get your cheeks whooped in one of the harder purgatory gates in the game, I'd suggest staying on the progression path. It's absolutely worth seeking the health upgrades, though. Not this Scooby-Doo bullshit again. Let me guess. We're gonna walk all the way down here to Jesus, what the fuck? Who is this? Another surprise enemy to the roster. These giant fiends do not mess around. This thing is literally like the Van Gelf fiends from Ninja Gaiden 2 on steroids and synthol, and as much as I like strong, unshakable opponents in my Ninja Gaiden games, I do not like how this thing fights. It's nice to fight something a little more telegraphed, enemies that have more clear tells to their attacks, like the devs actually took time to craft their movesets, and not like they threw a mocap suit on a Sasquatch and hit it with a taser gun, then called it a day. On the bright side, God, they're satisfying to finally kill. Eat this hammer, you filthy ape! After wandering a little further, I guess we found where the shark went. The rest of the mission is gonna be this portal hopping Rick and Morty bullshit, but while we're back in the human world, it's time to stop by our vendor buddies again. Tyrant actually clears up the air here around the whole demon and fiend thing. Apparently these are indeed fiends, and they are indeed distinct from the other supernatural entities we face throughout the game. The difference is that demons are more like traditional Japanese yokai, just kind of supernatural spirits that arise due to supernatural circumstances. They're almost like their own force of nature and act on instinct. Fiends, on the other hand, the creatures we've been fighting for the entire series, are more like the traditional Western demons, who are out to inflict harm on humans and possibly even feast on their flesh, misery, and suffering. They are unequivocally inclined to do evil, as it's in their nature. Whereas demons are just kind of there and attack people out of an almost predatory instinct, but never actively seek to do so, only if someone dumb enough wanders into their dominion, outside of which they're severely weakened. I really think it just makes things more confusing rather than enriching the world building here. But hey, that's Platinum Games for you. I guess while we're here, it wouldn't hurt to look around. Oh my god, bro. It speaks volumes that we fought this insane homeless man 3 times at this point in the game, and Kagachi? 0. Not once. Where is this man at? Let me at him already. Yeah, we dumped all this time and money into one of the coolest looking Ninja Gaiden characters ever, but here's 3 fights with a dildo. Just this same dildo. Here you go, bro. What's even more baffling is that this dildo has gotten stronger with every fight. This is Yakumo's rival. There's genuine effort in scaling his strength with ours, and I mean, it's cool. I'm having fun. Why though? The worst part is that this is kinda hard. I was stuck on him for like 10 minutes, even with the hammer basically fully upgraded already. By the time it was over, do I dare admit that I had fun? This fucking dollar store, we got Virgil at home ass boss fight. I fucking swear to God. The rest of this isn't anything to write home about. Just a lot more surfing and traversal sections until we, hopefully, catch up to the shark already. There's a lot of valid complaints about this game's visuals, but if a part of a level triggers my photo mode autism like this, I already know some people just don't see the vision here. Like, you got this big, cavernous section with the ruined city streets here too? Come on, don't lie, it's a cool sight. I hope if there are ever any future Ninja Gaiden games we get past this point, we get some proper Hell on Earth type level design. Imagine some shit like Doom Eternal Super Gore Nest in a Ninja Gaiden game with similar level design and traversal. Now that's a Ninja Gaiden game I'd pay $70 for. Reaching the end of the level here, we have... Okay, that's not a shark. That thing has udders, bro. That's not a shark. We're not going to spend much time on this guy. I quite honestly think this is far and away the worst boss in the game, and low-key a waste of time. Considering you can still do all of Yakumo's usual stuff to this guy, it's not the worst thing in the world. Honestly, by Ninja Gaiden standards, this boss is ever so slightly annoying compared to the infernal slog that was bosses like the Armadillos and Giga Death from 2. This makes those look like genuine torture in comparison. This thing has the same problem the giant fiends from earlier have. It just thrashes around like a spastic, and it's not particularly enjoyable to figure out when you're supposed to get your hits in. I get it's practically a staple of the franchise at this point, but when are we gonna do away with this Beast Warfare boss design? I don't want to fight these beasts anymore. I'm tired. I've been doing it for 4 games. Does anyone even really enjoy these big, like, animal type fiend battles? They're alright in Neo, at least. This guy doesn't put up too much of a fight if you're savvy enough with the hammer. A few smacks to the face will put this thing down for good. Mission 10 brings us to a relaxing indoor poolside, as well as the reappearance of the best DOA girl, Ayane, in full, pristine 4K resolution.
Nice night for a swim.
Yakumo seems to notice her, but hopes she doesn't notice him.
Tell me, Yakumo, Do you really plan on keeping this up?
Fuck off.
The interaction between the two suggests Ayane is already acquainted with Yakumo, perhaps even personally. And holy shit, are we really gearing up for an Ayane boss fight right now? Nope, just kidding. Get blue-balled, idiot. I can already hear Yuji Nakao laughing at my personal disdain and disappointment upon realizing this is all the Ayane screen time we get. Are you pulling my fucking Mickey right now? That's it? That was a cutscene and almost a boss fight. Platinum are some sick fucks for doing this. You don't just tease an Ayane boss fight, you cruel bastards. I want my money back. I'm genuinely a little upset, not even joking at this point. You designed this entire, meticulously detailed, high-resolution swords and all. Modern Ayane model, fully voice-acted with tasteful underboob, and this is what I get. Scraps. We still have a mission to get through, I digress. We are still looking for this goddamn shark, and I am so worked up I couldn't even get through this purgatory gate. Shit had me stuck for 30 minutes, completely heartbroken. Doesn't help that having most of your health bars shaved off makes even the lowly zombie fodder enemies a genuine threat. Shit sucked. The blue hellscape is really starting to wear out its welcome. I could really use some different visuals here. My eyes are actually getting tired of seeing blue and gray in this game. Even when the portals take us back to Tokyo, there still isn't really much in the way of interesting level design at this point in the game. And I feel like it's... Wait a second. You can do that? You're telling me it took me until halfway through my second playthrough to figure out every weapon has a unique ranged attack in Bloodraven form? The potential here is insane. I don't think the game ever tells you this. Then again, it never tells you that Yakumo has parries in Bloodraven form either. Man, fuck whatever I was just trying to talk about. This game is awesome. Point I was trying to make earlier is that sometimes it really does just feel like we're going in circles here, just because this arena looks like the same goddamn place I just started. And touching even more on level design, these traversal sections really do not pick up much of this slack. I mean, they're whimsical and whatever, pretty inoffensive all things considered, but what is this carnival ride roller coaster tomfoolery with doing all three of these back to back here? Next mission, we're gonna see Yakumo traverse Tokyo in a fucking hot air balloon at this rate. Admittedly, I'm being hyperbolic, but in all seriousness, the level design is getting a little stale here. I think it could be a lot worse though. We're getting close to the Shrine Demon at this rate, and overall, this was a solid chunk of the game, despite a lot of problems I had with it. If this is Ninja Gaiden 4 at its lowest, then that's saying something because I was still having quite a lot of fun. Shittiest boss fight so far, shittiest enemies, but man, this atmosphere is just hard to beat. Throw the hammer in on top of all that? Not that bad for being a dip in quality. This last bit of level here is straight up all traversal. I was gonna complain about it, but then they hit me with this slow-mo shot here, and I'm sorry, it's peak. I am still mad about the Ayane thing though. After falling through 4 different portals, Yakumo finally closes in on the demon that ate his priestess. Let this go down as the first action game for men. You can surf mid-boss fight. I cannot believe I am playing a real video game right now. So I know what you're all thinking, and I thought it too. It's on everyone's mind, the elephant in the room. We must address it. Semen of Dong. Someone had to say it. I know, someone had to say it. I wish there was a bit more to talk about here that I haven't already mentioned when discussing the bosses of Ninja Gaiden 4. The bad thing about every boss being a consistent fight with the same overlapping mechanics is that the strategy is basically the same. It's not like past games where I'd vehemently chastise the worm boss in Ninja Gaiden 2 for basically playing like hide and seek, and turn around and hate on Zidonius for an equal amount of bullshit for entirely different reasons. Maybe this is my inner Ninja Gaiden elitism, but there was something unmistakably charming about that bullshit factor in past games that's entirely vanished from Ninja Gaiden 4, for better, and I think a little bit for worse. For some fans, the core identity of Ninja Gaiden is built on the foundation of its difficulty, but going back and playing the older titles reveals the fact that a lot of the so-called difficulty stems from plain unfair or generally archaic mechanics for the time. The IS ninjas in 2, no matter how you cope, is unfair and broken game design. In the same light, I can also admit they are extremely gratifying to overcome because they don't play fair. Same thing with the bosses. I think an argument can be made that a boss with bullshit is indistinguishable from a boss with, say, difficult patterns that you can learn or something like that. Because at the end of the day, it's odds negatively stacked in the player's favor, and the reward is intrinsically tied to overcoming those odds, whether you want to call it artificial difficulty or not. I feel like ultimately it is subjective, and for me, above all else, the value I found in those fights was unique charm. The worst of the worst stood out from the rest, and whether it's positive or negative, if a boss makes an impact on you, you're gonna remember it. There's definitely some interesting psychology to dig into there, but we're currently fighting against a giant shark in this pool stadium thing, so there's more important things to focus on right now. This is maybe the first boss in the game to consistently get me with grabs. I don't even think past bosses had grabs up until now, and it was giving me violent flashbacks to the past games. There's not really much strategy here beyond getting your dodges and guard crushes down. Parrying can end the fight faster if you so desire, but it's far from required. As soon as the shark's second phase starts, we learn his name is Cetus, and he starts speaking in wingdings while teleporting everywhere. This guy can really get the drop on you if you let him leave your line of sight. Not only is he able to spawn droves of fish enemies, but he also has this insane backflip move that wasted me a few times when he was low, so it's not all gonna be sunshine and rainbows fighting this guy. All three of Yakumo's weapons are fine for this fight. I stuck with the hammer because it's my personal favorite. Pretty solid ending to the Drown District. Getting close to the end here, and if the game keeps this up, shit, it might be neck and neck with its predecessors at this rate. Shiori is seemingly in good shape, despite being inside this thing when we were bashing its brains out, and our protagonist gallantly delivers her to the shrine.
Did you save me?
Yeah.
Aw, Yakumo, you don't gotta get flustered. With the seal undone, Yakumo receives his last weapon. A fanny pack. Well, our duo has one more shrine to go to.
It won't be easy.
Don't know how much runtime is left here, but looking at the chapters, man, 10 chapters and we haven't touched Ryu yet? Hello? Where's my boy at? Shit, we haven't even fought Kagachi, and it feels like we're already about to wrap things up here. Hopefully we get an answer sooner rather than later.
Stay sharp, soldiers. Stand your ground. He's here. Take him out.
Enjoying your new toys, I see?
Mission 11 takes us to the DDO's headquarters in a one-man siege. We're here for the last shrine, and we're taking it by force. After the obligatory rail section to start off, we land and get a rundown on our latest arms. Literally, the Kage Hiroko is the most elusive out of Yakumo's toolkit. We're gonna just call this thing the Bag of Tricks, because it literally is some circus clown level tomfoolery. It's a bottomless bag of bombs, shurikens, there's a staff in here, tonfas, falcon's talons. Somehow Yakumo can dig out this giant medieval flail, and for fans of Platinum's previous hits, you guys remember Sundowner, right? This thing is nuts. Maybe the craziest Ninja Gaiden weapon ever conceived, yet it fits extremely well. I'm beyond impressed. A valid criticism I've heard voiced about this thing is that it's kind of overpowered, and yeah, this thing is stupidly strong to the point where I literally see zero downsides to using this over the other three. Its basic attack is effectively throwing unlimited volleys of windmill shurikens, super powered windmill shurikens if you're in Blood Raven. Anything you'd be forced to do up close you can do from 20 feet away with this thing. And oh, what does the heavy attack do? Random melee bullshit. The Blood Raven attacks have release windows on them like the hammer, and the craziest part is that they stuffed the tonfas and the falcon talons in here. Like, the movesets are here. So, is it overpowered? Yep. Fun as fuck to use though. God, this shit's satisfying. The other weapons still have their place. Hammer for crowd control or high damage, drill for positioning and stun locking a single target, dual swords for all around general purpose or even vertical advantage. Yakumo's entire complete kit is something to behold. The utility on display here is bordering on some DMC4 Dante shit with all of these options you can fluidly swap between on a whim. Chapter 11 is where Ninja Gaiden 4 seriously starts picking up steam for me, and I'm glad to say the next couple of chapters were a joy to play. The DDO HQ feels a bit tighter knit than the past few areas, maybe it's just a return to the industrial environments, but they pair well with the DDO soldiers, who get even more upgraded variants in the level as well. The game is starting to come into a fully complete vision here, and I really like it, but yo, when do we get to play as Ryu? Yakumo's been a lot of fun so far, but where's the other guy on the cover already? Like, I know we saw him and had a minor dispute with him and all, but still, overall the whole ride so far has been pretty intense. The Purgatory Gates have been pushing me to my limit, and the bosses are no picnic either. But I can sort of see eye to eye with some people that this overall feels off as a Ninja Gaiden game. With Yakumo's whole kit unlocked now, I can certainly say he plays genuinely nothing like Ryu, though some of the inner workings are still there like Guillotine Throw, Izuna Drop, Yakumo's general controls and movement, but when it comes to the finer things, the granularity of how I expect a Ninja Gaiden game to play, I was getting walked for trying to play like Ryu for the first few hours, and it didn't click until I stopped. I can see how some people would be thrown off by that alone, and while I can kinda understand, I also didn't have an issue with this. I just played the game according to its rules. I've seen criticisms arise from the game not playing like past games, which confuses me because which one are you talking about? Ninja Gaiden 3? Ninja Gaiden 3 doesn't really play like Ninja Gaiden 2. Ninja Gaiden 2, well, that doesn't really play anything like Ninja Gaiden Black, now does it? Should the game have come bundled with a stylus to play like Dragon Sword? Now, there were core gameplay elements that crossed over, naturally, but the jump from the first game to the second game alone was staggering. From the change in level by level progression, UTs being turned into these drawn out super attacks when before it was either decap or a much shorter animation. Executions, enemy counts being inflated out the wazoo. Razor's Edge straight up has an entirely different gameplay loop centered around attrition based combat, rather than managing how you use essence during combat and how you spend it outside of combat. How does this play anything like the first two if we really sit down and look at them side by side? I even talk about Steel on Bone, Cicada Surge, Bloody Rage, removal of all projectiles besides Ryu Shurikens and Bow, which, again, you can slow that shit down mid-air, mid-combo. You couldn't do this in the past games. I can even understand being put off by Yakumo over Ryu thus far, but the general vibe I've gotten from the guy is the least offensive example of a character succeeding the original protagonist, at least this far into the story. Yakumo is the most Ninja Gaiden coded character they could have possibly created without quite plainly just making Ryu 2 or Ryu Jr., or even something like making Hayate protagonist of his own game, which I'm still mad has not happened. Yakumo's been by the book, let's get this shit over with, since the start of the game, much like Ryu himself. And sure, he's had some small quips here and there, in the Ayane cutscene where he tells her to fuck off is hilariously edgy, but what I like about him is that he's honest in that edginess, and his entire character plays into it without feeling overbearing. He's not edgy for the sake of being edgy, he's edgy because he's a guy from a clan characterized by their generally negative reputation for their line of work. Yakumo's bleh. Whatever. Blood Edge the minion, I'm friends with Goku and Tails and Sonic, and I love Shinedown. Character archetype sounds really lame on paper, especially paired with his extremely emo design, from his hair, dark circles under his eyes, tattoos, and black nail polish, but I'm surprised that in execution, it works well within the world of Ninja Gaiden. You can make a similar argument to Yaiba too. The guy wasn't just an insane homicidal alcoholic for no reason. The guy had a whole backstory behind why he is the way he is, though the execution wasn't as stellar. Yakumo still feels like a Ninja Gaiden protagonist in the sense that he is kind of just Ryu. From his reserved personality to his duty-bound honor, whether you want to accept it or not, he's a parallel to Ryu that doesn't diverge much from the Dragon Ninja himself, other than having a fast fashion taste in personal clothing. Yakumo's really grown on me throughout the game, despite my initial concerns, and even stuff like his one-liners during combat or boss fights. It's charming in its own way and helps distinguish him from the guy who aura farms by just existing. We're somehow already at the end of the level. This wasn't a very long mission, to be honest, and the DDO's headquarters are now within reach. We've been getting hit by non-stop missile barrages for this entire rail section, and we just about tracked down the asshole who's been blasting them for the past 5 minutes. Check it out. They've got a Roomba. So this thing is the obligatory you love this thing or absolutely fucking hate it boss of Ninja Gaiden 4. The Roomba is either a fun, challenging fight that tests your ability to properly position Yakumo against an agile, ranged foe with serious area of denial, or a massive piece of shit you can spam projectiles with from across the arena. Now, to be fair, the Roomba is made with a bag of tricks in mind, so you honestly can just sit back and watch the circus. But there's nothing stopping you from using the drill, the hammer, or katanas either. I'm in the boat of people that enjoy this fight for the pure chaos that comes with fighting a tank with a meat grinder grafted to the front and rocket strapped to the back. This is maybe the only good combat vehicle fight in any Ninja Gaiden game ever. I really do think those were sluggish low points in Ninja Gaiden Black and Ninja Gaiden 3. God damn, dude, especially 3. None of these were good at all. Nightmare-ass boss fights. This at least plays into Yakumo's mechanics. You can hit it with ranged attacks, but as a result have to dodge its insane fuel rod cannon attack that can basically one-shot you. If you're genuinely insane, I think you can just straight up parry it. You also have to dodge its 4 other ranged attacks, usually all at the same time. Getting up close means dealing with the meat grinder, and also a point-blank shot with the cannon. But at least there it's easier to just step out of the way. The meat grinders are able to be parried as well, but are honestly a bit harder to get away from with dodging. This is a super enjoyable boss. I personally had a lot of fun with its systems. It gets a lot out of Yakumo's current expanded arsenal, which is shocking for a tank/armor fight in a Ninja Gaiden game, where you're usually hitting it with a bow or some abysmal dog shit until it dies. Good fight overall.
You're finished. Took care of the enemy combat vehicle. Entering the base now.
All right, bust in and lead the charge.
Consider it done.
Ooh, such a
Please relax, woman. We're finally at the Dark Dragon Order's HQ, the Dragon's Maw. And wow, these are some tall-ass buildings. Tyron jumps down despite us being indoors and gives Yakumo another lecture on the DDO. He doesn't really blame them for the fact that they're essentially their own paramilitary governing body with all the demons running around. Oh, they might just be the good guys. Tyron is a lovely character, but I really wish he did more in this game. You're gonna make a design this clean, have him this chummy with the protagonist, and just relegate him to being a vendor? His concept art shows him with a giant scythe, bro. Why does he do nothing in this game? Why does he have a Union Jack on his chest despite not sounding British and sounding more like someone's uncle from Utah? So many questions about this mystery man that we probably won't have answered for a while. Kagachi starts bullying us over the intercom, which is funny for a guy who's been dodging my boot up his ass for the entire game now. The duel is close. I can smell it. I still think we really should have gotten 1 or 2 fights earlier. The actual boss better be worth it. Yakumo's response to this has Sayori giggling and kicking her feet. You know, if these two aren't married by the end of the game, I'm giving it a 0 out of 10. I think objectively the worst thing about this entire chapter is this room. Just this room. You have this detailed, layered combat arena that I expected to fight a handful of guys in, and they just leave it empty? Okay. Alright. I ran around for like 10 minutes excitedly expecting something to happen like a dog with its leash off, and all I found was the door to the next area. As much as I think Mission 12 features some of the best combat sections in the game, some of these arenas are honestly just too damn big. What is the point of all this room if you're just gonna throw barely enough people to fill a 2020 Acura MDX at me? One argument I'll give the so elegantly dubbed Itagaki jihadists is that the enemy counts in 2 were perfect for the added scale of certain arenas. Not all of 2 was giant boxes or fields, but when it was, you can bet every square inch was being trampled by at least 3 different dudes at the same time. The thing is, this game is not afraid to throw hordes of foes at the player, but I've only seen it largely in the Purgatory Gates. If the base game had this level of difficulty, I think it really would have elevated these sections where, yeah, I'm having fun, but there could be a little more pressure, especially with Yakumo reaching critical power dick mass with his many utensils of mayhem. So what if it's my inner Ninja Gaiden 2 bias showing? I do honestly think the game would be better with higher enemy numbers. Throw 3 of the fucking ogres at me, I don't care. I'm goated. In the same light, I don't think something like the staircase should be held as a gold standard for Ninja Gaiden gameplay either. That's doing too much, and I don't even know if Team Ninja intended it to even play like that. Most people are just UT and Nimpo spamming here anyway, since the game is fucking unplayable at this frame rate, but the spectacle is still novel for me to this day. I can't, in good faith, admit the game is any less fun due to the enemy count. It's not like Sigma 2 at least, where there's like 3 guys on screen at once or anything. It's just these big ass arenas tend to put into perspective how compact the encounters really are. Through this elevator is... It's an egregious example. Like, that was it. Three dudes. Okay, now the game is contradicting me.
Lasers? Really?
Alright. I might be giving the game too many passes, but the lasers during traversal were cool. You can get an achievement for playing this level without getting hit by them. Laser's Edge, which is cute and funny and stuff because, wow, I played that game. Who the fuck? What? These heavy DDO guys just might be my total favorite out of the bunch. This is what I was talking about when I meant mini Dokus in the Ragebound video. This! Give me mini boss heavy type enemies that are like the bosses I faced. This shit is awesome. He feels like a mini D-Doc, and it's a shame we only get to fight them so late in the game. They're way better than the DDO ogre things that genuinely feel like the giant babies from Yaiba. The inner workings of the Dragon's Maw look awesome. There's a lot of white. Maybe a bit too much white, but I understand the vision. It's consistent with the DDO's overall vibe, and it makes the blood look pretty when you're ripping and tearing away during combat. It feels like something out of Titanfall 2, like that one level. I can only call it that one level. I don't know what happens in that campaign. It's been years. We also start seeing these rocket turret things. They're okay. I didn't really like the turrets in Ninja Gaiden 3, and these aren't much better. The bullshit of fighting a turret is alleviated by the bag of tricks, thankfully. They pair up well with the other ranged enemies, but I'll take a fight with the heavy guys any day, which also get a ranged variant with a fuel rod cannon. I do think this level hits a good balance of arena design and enemy placement. Some parts get downright creative with the game having Yakumo contend with dodging lasers mid-combat, though you're encouraged to turn them off by hitting these buttons. And is it just me, or did the game completely forget about the stealth mechanics just like Ninja Gaiden 3 did again? It happens, like, once, and it's just a few dudes checking out the vendors. They were just trying to buy some chips or some shit. With Yakumo running amok through their headquarters, the DDO resorts to desperate measures to get rid of their unwanted intruder. A trapdoor. Oldest trick in the book. In all fairness, this probably would have worked, but I'm very certain they didn't plan for Yakumo to be armed with a fucking surfboard of all things, so he ends up just fine. On the way back up, we run into an unexpected foe.
What the hell?
Bro, no way we're running it back for the 4th time against this guy. This boss makes me so upset. Not because it's bad, but because I want to hate it. I want to hate fighting this random dude with no stakes in the story, back to back, fully fledged moveset that changes with every battle. I want to hate the amount of effort they put into this side boss, this optional encounter. All of them are optional. I can't hate it. This shit is a good ass boss fight. Every fight with the food thief has been intense for literally no reason. And it makes me so mad that I've enjoyed each and every one. We could have had like 2 Kagachi fights to lead up to whenever the game stops holding out on us for the actual Kagachi fight. But no, you get 4 awesome fights with a sick homeless man. This is probably how Ryu felt fighting Yaiba. It's so dumb. This fight feels like a movie with Yakumo's whole moveset unlocked. It has no right to be this good, but it is, and I'm mad. He is genuinely pretty tough, but considering how broken the bag of tricks is, if you zone him and guard crush with its Blood Raven moves, it makes short work of the guy. Swear to fucking God if this son of a bitch comes back in the DLC. I'm calling it now. The DDO HQ is apparently big enough to have its own air currents flowing through the building. Yakumo gets some good distance back up to the tower and...
Why are things shaking?
Hang on a sec. It looks like the inner gate has started closing. If you don't get through, you won't be able to access the elevator to the top floor. Get a move on, Yakumo.
Oh man, they really hate my ass. The game throws damn near everything it's got at you for this final stretch of the level. And with Yakumo's fully upgraded kit, it's Ninja Gaiden 4 at some of its best. Last shrine is dead ahead, and the only thing standing in our way now is that long overdue Kagachi fight.
Elevator's moving again.
Couldn't have done it without our expert ninja hacker, Umi.
Yeah, whatever. Just get to the shrine in one piece, alright?
You got it. See you at the shrine, Yakumo.
Weird. Feels like the game's about to end and we still haven't played as Ryu. How many missions are there in this game anyways? Clearly, Ninja Gaiden 4 still has some steam left in it. We'll just have to see where it goes.
Sayori? Sayori.
Here we are, our fated duel with DDO General Kagachi. Before we get to that, here's a word from our sponsor. Yet another Purgatory Gate. I just realized it's... Oh, Purgatory Gate? Tory Gate? Oh, that's cute. I like that. That's very funny. Nothing like a little warm-up to get the blood flowing. I actually changed my mind. I'm good, bro. I don't even need money anymore. We're fine. We progressed past the need for money. Tyron regales us with the legend of the DDO's Grand General, and mentions that the organization used to just be a weapons manufacturer, which is par for the course for any company in this franchise. Somehow they end up doing shit like this. Only for once, the mega corporation isn't trying to destroy humanity. He tells us it's gonna be a tough battle or whatever, but offers an additional warning that something feels off about the guy. Almost like there's something supernatural to him. It could be the unspoken theory of a power dick aura that Ryu seemingly inexplicably emanates at all times, or something more sinister. The guy has just been standing, just like right there, just waiting, menacingly. His aura feels low-key evil. More concerningly, Umi tells us she can't track Sayori's signal anymore, and she doesn't know why. Not wanting to have our protagonist be sidetracked, she says not to worry about it and to keep heading to the final shrine. I'm sure Kagachi's feet are hurting from standing in place this long. Alright, buddy. So we can do this the easy way, or we can do it the hard way. Easy way, or the hard way. Easy way, hard way.
End of the line.
Oh, so we're doing it the hard way.
Kagachi.
Do you realize what you've done? The city's a damn wreck because of you. But there's no one to blame but myself. I should have killed you the first time we met. I know Sayori's with you. I'll give you one last chance. Stop this madness. Stay away from the Dark Dragon Seal. No turning back now, runt. Do you even realize what you're trying to accomplish?
I will purify the Dark Dragon. It's the promise I made to Sayori.
A promise? Short-sighted brat. Think of the consequences of what you're about to unleash. Are you prepared for that anguish?
I am a Raven Ninja, and I will execute my mission. I won't let you or Hayabusa stand in my way.
Really? Then you give me no choice.
At long fucking last, our duel with Grand General Kagachi has finally arrived. After 13 missions of build-up and so many characters quaking at this guy's presence, he's already in his second phase. Damn. Alright. So here's the deal with Kagachi, right? You guys know Potential Man? There you go. I love the idea of this fight. And I love the idea of Kagachi even more. Especially within the confines of Ninja Gaiden 4. This guy had the potential to be to Yakumo who Genshin was to Ryu. Debatably even on DOUKOKU levels of arch nemesis timing. We see the guy at the start of the game, in the tutorial. First of all, first problem, we should have fought Kagachi here, as either part of the intro, or as a finale to the intro, not unlike Jetstream Sam. You guys were waiting for the Revengeance comparisons, I know, but was this not the perfect place to do that? Not like Sayori would have been in much danger, Yakumo already agreed to help her and Kagachi's not gonna lay a finger on her either. So she could have, like, chilled in the back or something. The transition out of the prison would have made more sense too. Even if we lost to the guy, Sayori could have probably just grabbed a flashbang off of some dead DDO jobber's corpse, and it would have made a lot more sense than her just retrieving one from the boob dimension. Would have given us an actual idea of how strong the guy is, and we'd actually have a reason to think he's hot shit, rather than purely speculating off of word of mouth and him threatening us. We could have ran it back again at the Sanctum, instead of a random fight with Ryu Hayabusa, you know, which was cool, but I can't believe I'm admitting this, a fight with Kagachi would have made more sense and would have been cooler. At least in this imaginary ideal version of Ninja Gaiden 4 I've made in my head. Is Ryu also not debatably stronger than Kagachi? Why didn't we fight him at the mountain, and Ryu could have just snatched up Sayori and teleported away in a breezy pile of leaves? You might be wondering why I'm nitpicking this so hard, and that's because, so far, the Kagachi fight is straight up the best boss fight in the game. It's genuinely so fun. And the worst thing about it is that it could honestly be so much better if they made this guy Yakumo's rival, and not this random slob who steals food. I know the food thief isn't actually his rival, but why does he get 3 more fights than Kagachi? Why didn't this guy get that level of treatment? Kagachi should have been like Genshin. Ryu fought this old-ass fossil 4 different times in Ninja Gaiden 2. The red guy? Dickweed. Dickweed from Ninja Gaiden 3 got more love than Kagachi. This is outrageous. Kagachi should have had like 2 or 3 fights, and quite honestly, like 3 phases in this one, because my second criticism is that he goes down way too fast. It's hard to say if it's even strictly because he's too easy, because he really isn't. Yakumo can just dish out so much damage at this point that once you're in, you're going to be eating chunks out of his health bar. He is on the easier side to parry since his moves are more telegraphed than like a giant ghost cow moose or the Roomba boss, so that's another thing to consider. This makes him more fun to me, but I can see how that might trivialize the fight for some. Despite all the problems, he's a good ass fight, and I didn't even get to his second phase.
You don't know when to give up, do you?
This motherfucker has a Devil Bringer, and we finally see him use that big ass Odachi on his back. This phase of Kagachi is why he outclasses any fight prior to this one. This is some good ass shit right here. We are eating good. This will feed the hood for years to come. Some of these moves almost mirror how Yakumo fights with his Blood Raven moves on the dual katanas, with these wide sweeping attacks and long vertical swipes, some of which can chain into a grab if you're not careful. Kagachi will straight up just taunt Yakumo mid-fight sometimes, which goes to show the love put into this is not just a character, but an excellent boss fight. After giving Kagachi a traditional Raven Clan high five, Yakumo approaches his opponent in the throes of defeat, and... Oh. Hard to tell if Kagachi's gonna survive with a wound like that, but for now, he's been spared. So would this not have hit harder if he was our actual rival, or is that just me? Yakumo makes his late arrival at the shrine. Sayori's okay despite going AWOL before our fight with Kagachi, and she purifies the final seal. So the day saved, right?
This is it. Only one last step. Oh, great dark dragon, transcended divine. Within this bosom, thy soul enshrined. Admit this offer of flesh and bone. Feast upon kin, and reclaim thy throne.
Oh, right. Sayori has to be sacrificed to fully purify the Dark Dragon, and at this point, our guy Yakumo, always locked in on the mission, is having second thoughts.
The only way. Yakumo, break the final seal. And after that, complete the sacrifice.
Sacrifice?
What are you talking about?
As vessel of the dragon's soul, I need to die. Yakumo, please!
Whoa! Alright, someone's impatient. Misaki, of all people, was happy to oblige Sayori's sacrifice, but it's clear it wasn't for the same reasons. Because, of course, the blonde British guy with glasses ended up being a twist villain. He even gets his own transformation. Misaki was this guy all along, a greater fiend named Achilles.
Achilles?
Still alive, are we? I suppose I should introduce myself. Cower, mortal, before the Obsidian Overlord, Sovereign of the Damned, the great fiend Achilles! The very fiend.
Who are you? So this kind of comes out of nowhere, and I feel like I'm in a minority of people who played this game and didn't really like this boss. Achilles is the twist villain of the game, and maybe if Misaki wasn't just a carbon copy of Cliff from Ninja Gaiden 3, this would have hit me differently. But I saw this coming from the moment this guy walked on screen. To be fair to the guy, he is far and away significantly less annoying than Cliff. God, that character fucking sucked. But like, you know, I guess this is cool. I remember during the marketing, a lot of people thought this was Alexei from Ninja Gaiden 2. And some of my friends straight up assumed he was, given how he's like, do you know me? Mate, bruv, do you know me? You remember me, right? But really, he's just referencing the fact that he's the reason for the current Dark Dragon debacle we've been dealing with for the whole game. He summoned the dragon years ago through mass human sacrifice, and Sayori was an unwilling participant due to being the dragon's priestess. The whole deal here is that he orchestrated the events of the game to resurrect himself after a certain someone stopped him in his tracks all those years ago, which is really flimsy and hard to believe, even by Ninja Gaiden antagonist standards and motivations. But hey, this is night and day better than Cliff from Ninja Gaiden 3. Yeah, I'm gonna end the world because people like my brother more than me, and also because I'm extremely annoying. Fuck this guy! Achilles is at least in the evil-ass demon doing evil-ass shit because he's evil category of villainy, or he's in it for the love of the game. In terms of why we should care, Well, the guy did just murder Sayori, but we're gonna do it ourselves anyway, so it's kind of a gray area. But Yakumo, regardless, seriously pissed off.
Enough! I'll make you shut your fucking mouth.
Yakumo does not swear much in this game, and I'm glad it's only in appropriate situations. But this was kind of funny. I like how for the whole game, Yakumo's been nose to the grindstone about the whole mission, and was even eager to kill Sayori at the start. But after all this time, only now was the first time he'd hesitated. This is way better. Way better way of establishing humanity in your anti-hero type character than anything Ninja Gaiden 3 attempted. And I'm so glad this game redeems 3, at least on the basis of dogshit storytelling. 4's story isn't amazing or anything, but it does characterize Yakumo well enough for something like this to feel like it matters. The dude ended up bonding with Sayori throughout their mission, and when the time came to see it through, he couldn't go through with it. Not only is it a conflict on a personal level, but it also straight up contradicts and challenges Yakumo's sense of duty and honor as a Raven Ninja. It's an inner conflict as much as an external one, and damn, it's surprising for a Ninja Gaiden game. Anyways, Achilles is cool. He's got a big scythe Yakumo will never use. He fights you with geometry, and worst of all, he can summon shadow clones. The clone gimmick is really the only hard thing about him aside from his grab attack. I think it's an alright fight overall, but it really is overshadowed by Kagachi. Maybe if Achilles had more presence in the story, this would have hit harder, but again, I can say just as much for the former as well. Yakumo eventually whittles Achilles down, and finishes him with the classic Zandatsu technique. Weirdly, he didn't get chopped to pieces by this. Yakumo reunites with Sayori, but only manages to get there in her dying moments. Just enough time to hear her final words.
Yakumo. Please. The Dark Dragon. Only you can defeat him. Purify him. I'm so sorry. You know, I really don't want to die.
Am I crying to a Ninja Gaiden game? Sayori dies, and the Dark Dragon is finally reborn. Whether Yakumo can move past this and finish the mission or not is uncertain, even with a prophecy to fulfill. If he can't get the job done, there's only one other guy who can.
Finally arrived, real Hayabusa. With his body manifested, all that remains is the offering of the Dark Dragon's soul.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is it. The moment we've all been waiting for. We finally get to play as our boy Ryu Hayabusa in a flashback sequence, facing the Achilles guy we just fought as Yakumo. So here we are. For the first time in over a decade, Ryu appears in a brand new Ninja Gaiden game. We practically had an entire game before we got to play him, and now that we're here, was it all worth it? Well, first and foremost, let's look at his moveset. If you're wondering how much Ryu has improved since Ninja Gaiden 3, he can do this now. It's insane how I've hyped Ryu up as this planetary level entity capable of unspeakable feats, and now he's literally just like that in game. So Ninja Gaiden 4's Ryu has a few changes, as you can see. The game takes place decades after 3, and since then, Ryu's grown into the master of his clan, and his master ninja abilities seemingly have no limits, as he's gotten incomprehensibly stronger since we've seen him last. This motherfucker, he used to fight in martial arts tournaments against regular people, and now he's moving at speeds beyond normal human comprehension. These changes are additions, like Ryu's gleam mechanic being his equivalent of Yakumo's blood raven gauge, as well as changes to his appearance. I don't know about you guys, but Ryu's design in Ninja Gaiden 4 is nothing short of simply delicious. This is the sleekest look he's had in a long time, and feels like a genuine evolution of the classic Gimp suit since the start of the 3D era. My favorite will always be the look he had in Ninja Gaiden Black/Sigma, but this is damn near fighting for first place. I honestly never liked the look he had in 3. This outfit always bothered me for some reason, and I could never pin down exactly why, and the look from 2 is classic, but ultimately I thought it just looks like an altered version of his first outfit. The 4 design, with plates of composite armor and carbon fiber underneath, looks like it offers actual protection instead of just being this weird costume the guy runs around the world in. In a lot of ways, this is literally the same design philosophy Platinum took when redesigning Raiden for Revengeance. The placement of the armor pieces on the chest is weirdly identical, which I thought was kind of funny. But you can see a lot of overlap between these designs, which I don't know if it's just how Platinum makes their futuristic ninja characters or it was entirely accidental. Either way, Ryu looks stupidly good in this game, and the little forearm covering detail here is a nice touch of consistency with his Grip of Murder look from 3, so points to Platinum for not fucking that up. In terms of voice acting, Ryu's never had a consistent English VA apart from Troy Baker voicing him 4 times in a row in the early 2010s, so it was gonna be a wild card in terms of who would voice the Dragon Ninja in the 4th entry. And what a wild card it is, because this time around, we have Mike Stout voicing our boy in black. Here's a fun fact about all the English VAs in Ninja Gaiden 4. For most of them, this game is their first voice role ever. Most of them, except for Ryu's voice actor, whose only other role is Captain Crunch. Guy's vocal range is nuts, I would have never guessed. He surprisingly makes for an excellent older Ryu, so I don't have any complaints. Now, for those who know Ball, I played the Japanese dub first, because I wanted to see if Hideyuki Hori was still voicing Ryu, and I'm happy to say, 1, he does, and 2, this fucking guy has still got it. It's insane how good Ryu sounds in the Japanese dub. You know, as much as I like Captain Crunch Ryu, Hori has been voicing Ryu since the first game, and age has not slowed the guy down one bit. It was a joy to hear this old man scream like an insane person in my ears as Ryu. Hori's voice performance is amazing. So amazing, I almost forgot to tell you guys the bad news. As good as Ryu's 4 design is, as good as his voice is, as intact as Ryu's character and personality is in this game, I have the worst news possible. Even with the addition of the Gleam Meter, mechanically, this is the weakest Ryu has ever felt to play since Vanilla Ninja Gaiden 3, and that's really bad. You might be wondering, wait, what about him is so weak? This gameplay looks like the guy hits with the force of a star going supernova. What's the issue here? So back when the game was announced, it was revealed that Ryu would only have 1 weapon. So I knew this going into the game, and was rightfully worried. I did anticipate they'd make up for this somehow. Maybe he'd start off with the true Dragon Sword, and yeah, what we got in the game was the Gleam mechanic, which is basically true Dragon Sword on Yayo. But as soon as I got control of him, I immediately knew why the game leaned so much onto this mechanic. Ryu is missing moves from his Dragon Sword moveset. Are you fucking kidding me? I understand that the Dragon Sword's moveset was exhaustive, especially with the true Dragon Sword having a litany of moves that scrolled down considerably. You could say that some of the fat was trimmed and not everyone was using every move on here, but dude, the forward strings? Where are they? The circle Y move that acts as a launcher and crowd control? What the fuck was Platinum thinking? This is gutted. Lump this in with no extra weapons and no extra projectiles, and Ryu is functionally gimped almost as hard as he was in the base release of Ninja Gaiden 3, which is what I was hoping Team Ninja and Platinum were going to avoid, but alas, we are damn near repeating history here. The saving grace is that Gleam does offer a good bit of combo variety, as well as having access to Ninpo off of the same meter, but it's not enough to make up for what was lost, and quite honestly, it's a shame. Even more disappointingly, it gets worse. So a funny thing I noticed when the game was leading up to release were people making light comparisons to Devil May Cry 4, and there were mostly ironic statements making fun of the fact that they're both the fourth continuation of a long-running franchise where the protagonist is a young, edgy newcomer beefing with the older, seasoned, classic protagonist everyone's familiar with. Even the cover art was unmistakably similar. The thing is, despite DMC4 being fondly remembered by some, that game was not finished by any stretch of the imagination. You played through the game as Nero, got to the climax of the story where his priestess love interest was sacrificed in a ritual to reawaken this giant fucker capable of destroying the world. He gets a little in over his head, and you switch to Dante up until the final boss, replaying Nero's levels in reverse, even fighting the same bosses. Now with that synopsis, you may be noticing a pattern here with the order of events. And I would have never imagined that these jokes became reality until I was running back through the Drown District to fight this fucking shark again. There just had to be a catch here, huh? We were doing so good. We were doing so good. This game had small issues for me here and there that didn't impact my overall enjoyment, but never in my life would I have expected them to pull a beat-for-beat DMC4 with the fourth Ninja Gaiden game, and it is fucking tragic. This is worse than 9/11. It's the greatest sin of Ninja Gaiden 4. The Ryu levels are just Yakumo levels backwards. He's missing 60 to 70% of his regular moveset, and at this point you may consider this to be a blessing. He has like 3 levels. All of them are the shortest in the game. This is like how they put Black History Month in February. Since his chapters are short, and we've practically talked about all of them already, I'm lumping them all into the same chapter of the video. No point yapping about shit we've seen already. Instead, we're gonna keep talking about how dirty they did our boy in black, but in the same light, how they did try their best to make do with what they gave us. So the basic gist of Ryu's missions, the basic justification for even having him playable, is back during the Dark Dragon. Oh, okay. Back. I can't read this. What does this say? Is back during the Dark Dragon was. What? All right. I don't know what my script. What? I don't know what happened when I was writing this, but back when the Dark Dragon was resurrected again, Ryu managed to deal with Achilles before he could awaken it by sacrificing Saori. What? Back when the Dark Dragon was resurrected again, Ryu managed to deal with Achilles before he could awaken it by sacrificing Saori. So in an effort to seal the Dark Dragon indefinitely, he and Saori went and did numerous rituals around Tokyo to ensure no one would be able to do so. You know the seals we spent the whole game breaking as Yakumo? Well, this is how Saori went and did all that. So this kind of totally fucks with the continuity of the game, because we're told the devastation throughout Tokyo was due to the Dark Dragon's blood. The Dark Dragon's blood. Due to the Dark Dragon's blood raining from the sky and causing biblical levels of flooding. So my question is, why does it look the same? That shit doesn't really make any sense, but whatever. Saori is also especially mopey during this time, which tracks since Achilles quite literally killed everyone in her village to take her to be sacrificed. I'd be a little sad as well. Ryu's interactions with her are about as succinct as he is with any other character, and overall they keep his mysterious, powerful aura fully intact in this game. The only thing that could have made this worse is if they brought back Mizuki or Kana in this game, to the applause of nobody. The missions are shorter than Yakumo's by a pretty significant margin, and they bothered to bring back a few enemies from past games. The Shadow Fiends make their return, as well as the Van Gelf Fiends from 2 and 3, who are genuine just brick walls in this game. They've gotten progressively stronger with every game they appear in. These guys were not even remotely this tanky when they first debuted in 2. Curiously enough, these aren't the only enemies that returned. They even included the Black Spider Ninjas here too, though you can only fight them in the trial mode. Apparently at this point in time, their clan has fallen off so hard they only operate out of tiny enclaves, which is sad when Ragebound did so well with a Black Spider protagonist. It's even sadder that those two are going to stay in obscure purgatory forever, because they'll never be seen in a 3D game. I think the worst thing about Ryu's addition in Ninja Gaiden 4 is the fact that Ragebound lays such a good foundation for a proper series rebirth, and now this game exists so far down the continuity that it doesn't matter anymore. I said it when I reviewed that game, but if Ragebound acted as like a springboard into a new 3D Ninja Gaiden game where Ryu's in America or something, like the classic NES games, then I think it would have done much better than what we got now. Don't get me wrong, Yakumo is fun and its parts of the game are excellent, and on top of that, fully complete. And that's what bothers me so much about Ryu's sections. If you took him out of this game, you would still have a complete game, just not really a Ninja Gaiden game. As it stands right now, Ryu feels like a guest character in his own series for better and for worse. For better in the sense that he's at least comparable to something like Ayane and Razor's Edge. He has a powerful, distinct moveset with his own progression and missions or whatever, and he also reminds me of like Virgil in the sense that he makes up for his lack of options with sheer damage output. For worse, well, for reasons I've already explained. Some other quirks with Ryu is that, to shave down on unnecessary progression bloat, Ryu's skills are unlocked the classic way, through chests instead of having a big old man fall from the sky who teaches you tricks. Additionally, Ryu's vendor is the classic Muramasa statue, with a new rendition of his timeless theme.
So why does he have
lost
the gun
my shit
sheath?
when I heard
Why
this.
does he have the gun sheath?
Oh my god! Oh my god!
The nostalgia shot through my chest like a goddamn 50 caliber bullet. They got my ass with this shit. Ryu also has his fair share of missions to complete, all of them being assigned by Ayane. Mitigate loss of human life. Since when did Ryu care about this ever? Ryu can get Lives of the Thousand Gods for health upgrades, can perfect dodge in the form of Cicada Surge, can perfect block, perfect parry, and retaliate all of them with Gleam. As far as the levels go, there is very little variation at all. Like the Tokyo level taking place during daytime, where it's so horribly clear, it was never meant to be viewed with this type of lighting. Some of these angles look bad, dude. Christ almighty. If it wasn't any more obvious, this shit was all recycled. All the traversal stuff is here too, which is interesting because we never saw Ryu pick up a wingsuit or a surfboard or... Oh, right. Oh. Silly me! We're playing as Ryu Hayabusa, my bad. A lot of the enemy roster here is straight up just fiends and demons. The biggest shame is that you won't get to fight DDO soldiers unless you head into a purgatory gate, which makes sense since Ryu's allied with them. But they're also the best enemies in the game, so it feels a little wasted. Ryu eventually makes it to the Kitsune Courtesan and makes short work of the demon. Man, I know they removed a lot of Ryu's sauce in this game, but they also made him look so goddamn cool. He doesn't have much to say to Sayori during their interactions, does more characterization for Sayori than anything. She feels extreme guilt for being a part of Achilles' plan and by extension, feels responsible for the death of so many. But Ryu flatly claims that she had nothing to do with it, and that they got more shit to do so they better hit the road already. They make their way to the Sanctum, and luckily we don't have to scale the whole fucking mountain this time. There's a purgatory gate you can do before the boss, just like with Yakumo, and all of these are considerably easier with Ryu, which I'm sure no one is surprised by. You know, I'm glad we get all 4 Nimpo on speed dial here, but I also would have liked, you know, maybe a new Nimpo too. We've had the same spells since Ninja Gaiden 2, and while the ones in black were either underrated like Inazuma or useless like the Ice Wind, these are starting to get stale after 3 games in a row of just chucking fireballs and walls of negative gravity. When the hell are we going to be able to do this Spirit Ball Rasengan bullshit we always see him do in DOA? The Nimpo spells are busted as hell. Inferno will outright one-shot most things, as it should. And I actually found myself using Flame Phoenix here just because Ryu is that lacking on offensive options. Piercing Void feels weirdly less impactful this time around, and Windblade straight up feels bad. Last thing I almost didn't talk about is, of course, the Berserk Gauge. So easily forgotten. Ryu's Berserk Gauge is even more free kills than Yakumo's just off the basis that you don't have to charge/release to pull off the actual executions. They just activate off of any old Gleam attack. That's not even mentioning how his finisher is the Ninja Gaiden equivalent of Judgment Cut N. Okay, this shit is just way too cool. I hate this. I hate this so much. Ninja Gaiden 4 Ryu feels like a toxic relationship the way I keep getting pulled back in after thinking, man, they really fucked up my boy here, bro. It's hard to outright hate what they've done to Ryu when a lot of his genuine integrity as the Dragon Ninja is maintained. It really does feel like he's a guest character, but in the same light it feels like this is all they could do with what they had. The Ryu sections of this game have convinced me that he really was just jammed into the game last minute, either because he was never meant to be playable or some other reason. But it doesn't feel outright unfinished, just tacked on with the bare essentials and some bonus stuff to put him on par with Yakumo. It's a damn shame he doesn't have additional weapons, yet, but what we got right now, it's not half bad. Well, that's all the shrines done. All in a day's work. Ryu admits healing the dragon was the only thing they could do in the wake of its summoning. Every time he goes and destroys this thing, it always seems to come back somehow, and the only person capable of sealing it is a Raven Ninja. But for whatever reason, none of them have stepped up, which doesn't make much sense, but okay. The interesting thing about this scene is that it plays slightly differently in Japanese, especially Sayori's dialogue where she says she's decided she'll keep living for a bit longer, and there's some way she can still be of use to the world. This is night and day a way more pessimistic character in the Japanese dub, and this is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the differences between the Japanese and English audio. Almost everyone is pretty different depending on whatever version you're playing aside from Ryu and Yakumo. We're a lot more consistent, but even Yakumo feels less brooding and literally both feels and sounds like Ryu Jr. Half the shit he says is different. He doesn't even say fuck off to Ayane. Tyron's dialogue in JP is straight up funnier to me, just because he feels less like this older experienced coworker who might lightly rib Yakumo here and there, and more like a concerned older sibling at times with how the two go back and forth. The weirdest part is how Sayori and Umi's personalities seem to overlap between languages. And what I mean is that Sayori in JP feels more like Umi in English and vice versa. And it was weird when I played in English in my second playthrough and realized that. Sayori also calls Yakumo a good boy in Japanese. I just thought all of you should know that. Just food for thought, guys. She's significantly more blunt, and overall, I liked her a lot more in contrast to English. People give this game's English dialogue a lot of shit, but I think they did pretty good for a first-time gig. Captain Crunch need not apply. He's got years of experience. I am heavily biased towards the Japanese dub because of Ryu, and I'll plainly admit I do think it's better. Anyways, long digression.
Present day. Present time.
Hope you didn't think a flashback sequence was all we were gonna get of our boy in black. The last mission we get with the guy takes place right after the Dark Dragon's resurrection. In the face of insurmountable odds, Ryu gets shit done. On his way to do what he does best, he passes by Yakumo, still mourning Sayori's death. Hey, you know, that's rough, buddy, but we've got bigger fish to fry. This is the final stretch of the game, Ryu heading up to the Dark Dragon. Though you gotta wonder what the guy's plan is given that he literally can't kill it. Seems like Yakumo's whole plan went cattywampus, and now it's up to Ryu to set things right. So much for purifying the thing. Sometimes the tired and true Hayabusa method of
kill everything
really is just the way to go. And this whole mission is just carving a bloody path through the now fiend-infested dragon's maw. It's not a very long mission, and quite honestly, I think I've said everything I want to say about Ryu in this game at this rate. As much of a shame as I think Ryu's current playable state is, I also can't deny that removed from comparison, within the confines of Ninja Gaiden 4, he plays well. Hitting parries, perfect dodges, and generally just engaging with the game's mechanics lends him a lot of leeway in the face of having so little in comparison to Yakumo, but at the very least, he does have gleam. Does this make up for how gutted he is compared to past games? Absolutely not. But it does feel as if they wanted you, at the very least, to feel powerful when playing Ryu. And that much consideration I can acknowledge. But at the end of the day, the Ryu levels did leave a bad taste in my mouth as a longtime fan. I'm sure it would have been worse to leave him out entirely, and it's hard to accept a bare-bones version instead of nothing, but I'm afraid it's all we got to cope with. For a lot of people, this flat out ruined the entire game for them, and I can totally see why. But for me, there's still Yakumo's entire kit and his entire campaign behind it. It didn't ruin the game as a whole for me, since I still had way too much fun playing as Yakumo. And my final thoughts on Ryu's inclusion as a playable character, it basically ends there. He's an incomplete Ryu tacked onto a finished Ninja Gaiden game, which is weird. But hey, after Yaiba? Shit, I'll take it.
Darkness is destined to lift in the end. I still have much left. Such is the fragility of evil.
To close off Ryu's chapter, we have this thing. We got this thing, dude. I don't know what it's called. The pig. I called this thing the pig when I first played the game. This is a little insulting after everything I just talked about. The only original boss Ryu gets is a McDonald's Happy Meal toy. Whatever, man. This guy feels like an afterthought anyways. I didn't expect much after the same Ryu's bosses and areas. At least this section of the Dragon's Maw is unique to him. We make it inside the deepest reaches of the HQ, and Ryu stands before a door with a familiar marking on it. Our boy suddenly gets sleepy, and we're launched into a dream sequence where Sayori shows up and... Wait, this is a flashback. Probably back whenever Sayori's comms went out. She tracked down Ryu to entrust him with... Hey, I know what that is! That's the Dragon's Eye! Well, the Dark Dragon equivalent.
If we can stop the Dark Dragon and save Yakumo from the curse of his bloodline, it will all be worth it in the end.
Oh, I see what we're doing here. That's almost clever, Platinum Games.
I guess this is goodbye. You helped me more than you realize, Ryu. Time to return the favor.
So with this scene in mind, and Sayori's last request to entrust this to Yakumo only if Ryu deems him worthy, that can only mean one thing. A duel.
Only you can defeat him. Purify I am.
Yakumo, do you copy? Yakumo!
Umi.
Yakumo! Thank goodness. What the heck is going on over there?
I'll fill you in later. Proceeding with the mission.
Yakumo? Oh, we're all counting on you, but please come back home safe.
Well, well, well. We're finally back to our boy with the beak. After taking a brief respite to grieve Sayori's death, he's moving forward with the mission nonetheless, a true Raven Ninja to the end. I like that Yakumo rises to the occasion despite the circumstances. It shows a simple courage and determination that's quite endearing. He's very clearly affected by her death, but musters his stoic exterior right back up and finishes the fight. It's great. The final mission hits us with an Uno reverse card though. You know how I said the last Ryu mission was his only unique one? Surprise! Yakumo's trailing right behind him. Now I would shit all over this if it wasn't for the detail that we're literally trailing minutes behind him, and whatever carnage you left behind is still fresh on the walls and floor. This is kinda fucking cool, I'm struggling to hate on it. Tyrant unfortunately has no words for us prior to our next battle, though Umi's clearly feeling the weight of the mission at this point. Yakumo tries to reassure her, but it's clear he's weighed down as well. The only way through is forward, and this is exactly where we stop playing as Ryu, so I should probably go back and buy some... Oh, no turning back now.
So you've come, Raven. Back off, Hayabusa. The Dark Dragon is mine.
If you truly think you have what it takes to slay the Dark Dragon, prove it.
Here we go. The inevitable run back with our boy in black, Ryu Hayabusa. This isn't the first time we fought Ryu in a Ninja Gaiden game. We actually just fought him in the tutorial for Ragebound quite recently, in fact. But this is one in a line of many. From the doppelganger fights in Black/Sigma, to the Epigonos fight in 3, the Hayabusa fight in Yaiba, to now. I can say with full confidence, this blows all of them out the goddamn water with how good it is. No glaze, this is the best fight in the game. This is genuinely one of the best fights in the entire goddamn series. The Epigonos fight in 3, I will admit, super fucking close still, but this beats it out in terms of pure spectacle. This fight is your complete test to see if you're good enough to beat the game. And it's a classic Ninja Gaiden ass beating even this late into this title's runtime. It feels properly endgame, and I'm glad they held out for the real fight until now, because it wouldn't feel nearly as satisfying if you didn't have all of Yakumo's kit at your disposal. When it comes to fights like these, you're gonna think I sound like a broken record at this rate if you've been watching these since the first one, but it really is just the back and forth nature that makes this fight so good. Both Yakumo and Ryu are weaving in and out of their attacks. Ryu can straight up block your UTs and Izuna drop, which if you manage to land on him, this shit feels better than sex. You can land just about anything on Ryu if you're goated enough. You can fucking guillotine throw the guy and wall splat him for damage, use shurikens, literally the most fluid and consistent boss I've ever seen in a Ninja Gaiden game, and it makes a lot of the annoyances I felt with some of the game's issues feel like it was worth it in the end. Now, I could just sit here and run my goddamn mouth like a retard about made-up terms that don't matter to correctly articulate what makes this fight so good. I could pull some shit out like, yes. The skill permanence needed to correctly evaluate Ryu's flowchart and learn his patterns is extremely rewarding and mechanically emboldens the enjoyment prioritization that constitutes Ninja Gaiden's core non-diegetic homodiegesis. So you know why this fight is so good? If anyone else tells you otherwise, they're full of shit. It's good because it's a fight with Ryu Hayabusa at his peak. Plain and simple. As a Ninja Gaiden fan, you already know what the fuck is going on, and there's no greater honor than being on the other end of the Dragon Sword. I think it's safe to say Yakumo's proven himself.
Yakumo.
Ryu almost gets decapitated and tosses him the Dark Dragon's eye.
Parting gift from Sayori, the jewel of the Dark Dragon.
At this point, you're probably wondering, so does Yakumo get his own true dragon sword? Oh, he gets a little more than that.
The Dark Dragon Blade. The blade of legend harnessing the power of the cursed worm itself. Blackened rain beckons our bloodline's amends through the death of his priestess. Must the dragon be cleansed? In the hands of a Raven Clan ninja, it has the power to purify the dragon once and for all. Now go.
All this talk about Dark Dragon this, Dark Dragon that, and surprisingly, we actually get our hands on the blade that caused so much trouble in the first game. This is their last hope for purifying the actual dragon flying around in the sky, so Yakumo makes haste to the final battle.
Dark Dragon's fate and Sayori's will are in your hands.
So, the Dark Dragon Blade. Mato. Where do we start with this thing? First of all, the game does acknowledge Ryu smashed the sword into glitter back in the first game, so there's that. Now what I really want to talk about is the moveset. For those who play Black/Sigma, you'll remember when Ryu used the Dark Dragon Blade, it largely mimicked the Dabilaro's moveset, and didn't have much flair beyond dealing the most damage out of any other sword in the game. It was slow and cumbersome and honestly not a great weapon. On the other hand, in 4, it is literally just Ryu's Dragon Sword. If you needed any further proof our boy in black was a total afterthought, here's his entire unique gameplay gimmick stapled onto Yakumo. Just here. What the fuck? Why is this guy playable at all anymore then? This really soured Ryu's inclusion for me above all else, because even his awesome, visually distinct mechanic was just hand-me-downs from Yakumo whenever they decided to hastily port him and 12% of his moveset from Razor's Edge into this game. Fuck me. You know what, whatever, let's just finish the game. We're almost there and I want to see how this all plays out anyways. On the bright side, the blade does look cool, and adds even more awesome shit to Yakumo's repertoire. Just wish it didn't further invalidate Ryu's entire presence as a playable character. Our final vendor stop for the game, and Tyron is shocked to see us wielding our clan's Blade of Legend, and he mentions that Ryu trusting us with this thing means he sees us as an equal. I mean, I guess. I just figured it meant we weren't going to take it and transform into like a giant purple ogre like his uncle, and we could be trusted to not use it for evil. You know, I guess that works too. I'll take Master Ninja. This was a little cringe. Maybe the only time I genuinely felt that way with this game's dialogue for the whole runtime. But Yakumo has definitely been through a lot. Master Ninja, though, come on now. He's getting up there, though. Yakumo gives his last regards to Umi, and we scale whatever's left of the Dragon's Maw. Shit's got me checking my watch. This is a long way up, bro. In classic, traditional Ninja Gaiden fashion, we're ending the game with a BFB. This is typical for the franchise, and even features us hitting it with projectiles, as one does. But even with this being nothing particularly remarkable, it's a lot more fun than every other BFB in the series. Man, I even gave Yaiba credit for at least including its core gameplay gimmicks in its final boss, and I'm glad most of Yakumo's options are available here too. The worst thing about these final spectacle fights is that they usually either play completely differently from anything else you've done in the game, or they sacrifice a large amount of mechanical depth for the sake of being this big grand finale that feels more like a wretched slog of mayhem and cruelty rather than something that I'm supposed to sit down and be hyped about. It's really amazing how much the Dark Dragon plays like any other fight in the game due to Ninja Gaiden 4's mechanical consistency with its bosses. And it's truly one of the best aspects of this game, shining brightest with making a spectacle final boss not utter dog shit to fight. You can parry this fucking thing if you really wanted to, but sticking to the guard crushes, preferably with the bag of tricks, is mostly the way to go. But even then, you don't have to use that either, since all of your other weapons have ranged attacks too. Even the Dark Dragon Blade has a ranged attack. I did not figure this out yet, however, but it is there. I think they did well here in finally pulling off a BFB that's not awful to fight and ruins the entire endgame experience of my Ninja Gaiden game. That's a rare sight we haven't seen since the first game with Mirai, which this should be industry standard at this point. You can have your big spectacle whatever, just please put like just a dude, just like a really strong regular sized dude afterwards, because that's the best type of boss fight dynamic in the entire genre. Honestly, I can't imagine why you wouldn't want to end your game on that note. As for my closing thoughts on the Dark Dragon, it's cool. It's nothing insane or really new here. I like how the second phase takes place even higher up the tower. This shit reminds me too much of Doom Eternal's Icon of Sin fight with the ruined skyscraper and apocalyptic cataclysm rampaging in the background. You've just got to maneuver these platforms, and that's really all that's different. It is sort of a pain in the ass though, but I guess it's got to have some level of bullshit to truly be a BFB. After fighting both tooth and nail with our ancestral dragon god, Yakumo delivers the penultimate, greatest execution in Ninja Gaiden history. Fun's not over just yet. Would it really be a Ninja Gaiden game if it wasn't at least 3 bosses back to back for the finale? We've still got one more fight before it's all said and done, and that's when Ninja Gaiden 4 hits you with the real final boss. So you know that thing I said earlier about having a big spectacle fight and also having a real fight with a dude? We're doing it again.
This ends here.
And it's a fucking doppelganger fight of all things. If Platinum understood one thing about the Ninja Gaiden series, it's that the doppelganger fights were the undisputed peak of any game they were featured in. So is the Yakumo mirror any good? Yeah, I like it. It's both ballsy to end your game with a fight like this, and also playing it sort of safe. Like, you can't go wrong with a duel to end your action game, but a doppelganger fight on top of that? It's easy to fuck that up, but in Ninja Gaiden, I can't think of a single instance of that ever going awry, and well, here's proof. Your final boss for Ninja Gaiden 4 is yourself. Yakumo armed with just his dual katanas and Blood Raven, which I was happy with, don't get me wrong, but this would have been way cooler if he could weapon switch, sort of like Hapygourious in Ninja Gaiden 3. On the other hand, Dark Yakumo can shoot lasers from his eyes and breathe fire, so he makes up for it there a little bit. Honestly, I think the fight would have made more sense if he was using the Dark Dragon Blade, but that would mean it would just be a repeat of the Ryu fight since it's mostly the same moveset. So dual katanas it is. I think, more than anything, this fight truly embodies the game of Ninja Gaiden 4 in a microcosm, both the good and the bad. The good in the sense that the feedback you get from fighting him feels immaculate. It's visually and auditorily scrumptious, and mechanically is satisfying in a way you could only get from clashing blades, perfect dodging, and retaliating with your meaty Blood Raven attacks or your blinding light speed gleam moves. All while you got this insane arena with more Victor Borba blasting in your ears the whole time. It's fucking great. But the thing is, you know it could be better. You know this fight doesn't mean anything. Not that it has to, but it is just kind of a major ass pull. At least with Mirai, it was obvious this guy was gonna end up being this giant evil pimp who was stalking you the whole game. Oh yeah, it's a real shame the demented blade of slaughter and pandemonium is being sheltered away from prying hands. Yeah, that's a real fucking bummer, buddy. You know this fight could have had more to it. You know it's just Yakumo you're fighting, and that's just kind of a victory lap at this point. But ultimately, I can't say it feels soulless. Not to use Le Soul in a Crowcat type way, but literally the passion and love that goes into a creation. It feels like it's here as a genuine final challenge for the player in a classic action game fashion. A dude with a sword. And by extension, the sentiment feels like it encompasses the whole game for me. Ninja Gaiden 4. Despite not being exactly what I wanted it to be, I really do think this game could have been so much more. Despite this, man is it a good time. This game fucking rules. I cannot in good faith say Platinum fumbled the bag, ruined the series, killed the series, God forbid, because there's just so much here that feels like it was made for fans of action games, by fans of action games, and it's 100% apparent through Yakumo and his abilities. Now, in terms of a Ninja Gaiden game, that's another story we'll save for the outro. But to close out Ninja Gaiden 4 standing by itself, removed of comparison, this is Ninja Kino. In one final struggle, Yakumo, at last, completes his mission and fulfills the ancient prophecy of the Raven clan.
Yakumo, come in! Oh, please tell me you're alright.
Yeah. It's done.
With that, Ninja Gaiden 4 ends on a classic sunrise resting on the horizon, and another apocalypse averted. Good shit, Platinum. Now on to the outro. Well, Ninja Gaiden 4. Yeah, it was pretty fun. This is the strangest outro for me to write, simply because I've already given my thoughts on this series extensively, so there's not much for me to say there. However, now with the entire game out of the way, sure, it's good in a vacuum, but how exactly does the game stack up to its predecessors? Here's the thing. I don't like what they did to Ryu here, mechanically. It's weird. It's like a polar opposite reaction I had to Razor's Edge. I like the change of gameplay there, but the Dragon Ninja himself, as a character? In 4, he feels like the devs actually understood what makes him appealing, just a stone-cold warrior of unfaltering steel. And despite his horribly gimped gameplay, do try their best to communicate this with whatever they scrape together for how he feels in game. Ryu feels strong. He's treated with respect, and I feel like this is why I'm not as outwardly offended by how he ended up in 4 as I did with 3. What happened there was a gross misunderstanding of what the fans wanted, and who the character they're working with even is. 4 at the very least understands who Ryu is and why people like him, but either through poor time management, or maybe they ran out of money, or whatever, failed to fully implement Ryu as he should be. Not out of, this is what you guys wanted, right? But more out of, this is the best we could do. And it's significantly less appalling. It's evidenced even more so by Ryu getting an additional weapon in the upcoming DLC, which, by the way, them announcing the DLC like a month or two before the game even dropped, explicitly stating he'll get more love there, is proof to me that whatever happened during this game's development, Ryu was basically ham-fisted in last minute as a playable character. And what we got is what we got. I think whether keeping him in rather than excluding him completely, being the lesser of two evils, is ultimately subjective, but I can't deny, despite how his gameplay depth was reduced to that of a puddle, I still had fun. I still got a kick out of perfect parrying into a gleam combo, his insane ninja cut end, plain and simply Ryu being the Dragon Ninja with no further alterations to that idea other than mechanical erasure. Understandably, this was a deal breaker for a lot of longtime fans coming back for the 4th entry, and rightfully so. Ryu is on guest character status in this game, despite Ninja Gaiden being his series. He's having his own Ninja Gaiden in Ninja Gaiden. Ninja Gaiden was his Ninja Gaiden. What are we doing here? For me, this didn't totally ruin the game as a whole experience. Ryu and his missions just feel stapled onto this already finished game, which is why I feel like the DMC4 comparisons are kinda in bad faith. Nero wasn't even finished in that game, and while Dante wasn't gimped as horribly as Ninja Gaiden 4's Ryu, even his kit wasn't fully finished. At least if you removed Ryu and his missions from this game, you would still have a 100% finished product. And that's what's carrying this game so hard for me, despite Ryu's shortcomings. This is why I feel like comparisons to Yaiba or Vanilla 3 aren't exactly accurate. Because this guy is here and he feels exquisite to play. Now if you hate Ryu's parts and didn't exactly mess with Yakumo, sucks to suck, I guess, but I felt like I at least got some of my money's worth with him feeling like a well and proper action game protagonist, so I'm good on that. It does stand that as of right now, Ryu is stuck in potential hell with how little he offers compared to Yakumo. I was excited to learn that you can just play through the whole game as him after you beat it, and yes, if you go to the final mission, you will be fighting Ryu as Ryu, meaning there's actually 2 doppelganger boss fights in this game, but I digress. I just don't know why they didn't at least add his bow. Imagine like a gleam charged attack with the bow, like mid-air, slow down that shit, and it shoots a ricochet arrow that delimbs as it's bouncing off enemies and shit. Would have been awesome. But alas, this is all we got. It's easy to feel frustrated and put the blame on the devs for not mastercrafting the ultimate Ninja Gaiden game to bring the series back, but I think this is the best we were ever going to get with the state of the industry as it is. Would I have liked a more complete vision? Absolutely. Shit, this isn't even my ideal Ninja Gaiden 4, but what we got is arguably one of the better outcomes, especially nowadays in an environment where games like this don't even get made. Sit your white ass down and think, when was the last time you saw a release for a legit AAA action game? Last time I can think of was Bayonetta 3, and the reception around that game was lukewarm at best, though Happy G liked it, so maybe people are just being onions again. But regardless, that was 3 years ago. Action games aren't popular, nor do they make a lot of money, so there's little incentive for modern publishers to even entertain the idea of bringing back old action franchises and continuing them. I'm still in awe of a game like DMC5 even fucking existing. No matter how you feel about the game or Devil May Cry as an action game franchise, the fact that a continuation of that series exists, that not only set a new standard for the games, but also pays homage to them mechanically and in terms of small details, a lot of which you'd only notice as a veteran, is so rare with any series ever, much less something like DMC, which was still somewhat niche at the time. I feel similarly about Ninja Gaiden 4. Not so much in the same way of, wow, this set a new standard and pays homage, because it does very little in the way of either, but in the sense that this game, in the grand scheme of things, shouldn't exist. It shouldn't exist in the sense that the industry has shifted so hard in a direction of churning out fat-ass profits with sequels to series with far more mass appeal, that the fact that this even got made was a miracle. And that it's not total dog shit is another in of itself. And I think that's where a lot of my genuine enjoyment of the game stems from. It could have been a lot better, yeah, but where it is right now isn't terrible. And for an action game released in 2025, it's already got odds stacked against it, so I'm fine with how it turned out. Just fine though. It's good. And for that I'm relieved. I've seen some people who didn't exactly like how the game turned out jump in abject joy at the fact that Ninja Gaiden 4, though a good action game, didn't sell all too well from various sources. Which to me is weird behavior I'll never understand, because how is this going to get us better action games? It's like some fans don't understand that action games alone are pretty niche, even today, and Ninja Gaiden is even more niche within that subgenre. I didn't expect the game to sell like hotcakes, but acting like poor sales are a good thing for your favorite series or favorite genre is childish and in poor taste. Even if the game was your ideal Ninja Gaiden and somehow sold record sales in this fantasy Twilight Zone hypothetical, we'd probably still be off from Ninja Gaiden 5 by half a decade or more. DMC 5, again, sorry to keep dragging this in here, is the most popular action game ever. and only gets more and more attention every year for some reason, and still, not a peep to be heard of DMC6 by Capcom. We might get remakes of the PS2 games, but that's still to be determined. My point is, action games are niche. Ninja Gaiden 4 is pretty good all things considered, and if you want this genre to continue to have good games, games at all, we should keep the discourse constructive and not go on X posting hashtag platinum games or some insane shit like that. I understand Ninja Gaiden Black and Ninja Gaiden 2 were unforgettable games from a better time, but when are we going to collectively understand that this time doesn't exist anymore, and we will never see games like this ever again? For hardcore fans specifically, what did you expect from this game? A total return to form? Ninja Gaiden going back to its core? Whatever that means? I think realistically, whether you like this game as a Ninja Gaiden fan or not, boils down to what you value about the series. What I value about a Ninja Gaiden game is the overall experience, which I suppose explains why I felt the way I did about a game like Razor's Edge. Some people got mad at me because I didn't enjoy the game overall, despite praising the smooth, fluid combat, and I guess I just don't understand. Am I supposed to ignore this giant pile of horse shit, aka the story of the game? You know, if the game was good, I wouldn't have to go out of my way to ignore it, right? Ninja Gaiden 4's story isn't anything particularly crazy. In fact, I think it contradicts itself several times, but the characters and overall narrative weren't offensive enough to bother me. It wasn't an active effort, it just sort of became background noise because it was pretty average. Hell, I like the characters. I like nobody in Razor's Edge, and that's not good for a video game. I value the entire experience of video games because I think they're an interactive artistic medium and should be experienced as a whole. Ninja Gaiden is no exception. It's apparent that these games weren't just an action game to Team Ninja, it was an artistic vision they fervently pursued with fiery passion. Otherwise, the man who made the entire 3D era of these games possible wouldn't have said this.
I strive to include things that everybody can find beautiful. The flower, bird, the wind, the moon. These are the things that are universal, that everybody finds beautiful. There are a lot of beautiful types of flowers. I think that some of the ones we like are, of course, the cherry blossoms because of how beautiful they are, but also how fragile. I think if you go back and look at all of our games, you see that they all include cherry blossoms at one point or another. I'm from the countryside, mountains and rivers and things like that, so I really like the beauty of the landscapes. So I may go to a river, and I'll notice like a stand of weeds or some plants by the side of the river, and I'll get down with my camera and get down into a low pose and take a shot with the light coming from the other side. I'll go back and I look at how the light behaves and how it shines, and I'll say, is it possible to recreate that effect? I think it's important not only to try to mimic reality, but also try to understand what makes that environment beautiful.
It's not a complete Ninja Gaiden video if I don't mention the late and great Tomonobu Itagaki, who unfortunately passed away October 16th, 2025. And I'd be remiss if I didn't take a moment to briefly speak about his legacy. Despite hearing about it the day of, I had to spend some time thinking about what I wanted to say about the news. I never knew Itagaki personally, nor did I even know him beyond the rockstar-esque exterior he had during his time in the game industry limelight, but I have respect for him and the legacy he's left. I didn't want to come out swinging with a post or a video or anything, because I always feel like that's in poor taste. So with Ninja Gaiden 4 out and talked about, and with his passing a few weeks behind us, I would just like to say thank you to someone who made such a positive impact on so many people's lives. Speaking as a fan of his work, the games this guy made, and the stories behind them, as in the actual development, blood, sweat, and tears that went into these, are things I'll hold in my memory for years to come. I've said a lot about the guy on the channel, as many of you may know, and I've discussed his games at exhaustive lengths, picking apart the good and the bad, but none of it was out of anything short of pure earnest enjoyment of his works. He's left behind not just a legacy, but countless stories just in the gaming world alone. From his anecdotes working on the DOA games, interviews during Ninja Gaiden's development, numerous spots at conventions and expos, to his infamous beef with Tekken's Katsuhiro Harada, someone who personally gave his thoughts on Itagaki's passing at the time in a short post honoring his longtime rival and good friend. He was only 58 when he died, and I can only hope his loved ones are doing well. Thank you, Itagaki, for the wonderful games and wonderful stories. We may never see anyone like this in the gaming industry ever again. Even for his time, someone like him was rare. A man with a vision in the right place, at the right time. According to his final words posted to his Facebook by whomever he trusted, Itagaki died with no regrets. May we all be so lucky.
I'm Itagaki. You have access.
Though he probably would not have given a shit about the game, I still find it deeply sad he never lived to see the release of Ninja Gaiden 4, only a few days off from the announcement of his death. The series was something that was synonymous with his public image, even after breaking off from Team Ninja and Koei Tecmo. It's long moved on from the Itagaki era, but that DNA still runs strong despite what a lot of people say, and it's the mark of a truly great creative vision. To end off yet another entry in the Ninja Gaiden videos, I liked Ninja Gaiden 4. Will we get a Ninja Gaiden 5? Fuck no. Am I alright with this being the send-off for the series instead of Yaiba? Absolutely. Hopefully the DLC improves some of the base game's shortcomings, but we'll have to wait till 2026 to find out. Thanks for watching, everybody. Here's the Ninja Gaiden 4.